Good, excuse me. Good morning, you guys. Happy Friday. Hey, Nonstop Mom. Hey, Amelia Sparkles. Hello, Southern Lady. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How was everybody's Thursday night? I hope it was good. Let me, because we've only got 7 minutes. So let me get over to the trial and see what's what over there. So hold on just a sec. I cannot talk and do things for some reason. I don't know. Can't do it. Normally I can, which is weird. I'm usually pretty good at it. Like I'm usually good at multitasking, but whenever I try to do it when I'm live, not so much. So what I thought we would do this morning is obviously, ideally, right? We would like to have the first person who's called to testify not opt out, and we can watch it. However, again, I do have a um, backup plan in case that's not in case they don't decide to testify. We're going to finish up the yes Southern Lady, and they're really good about that. They usually pin a comment, but if they opt out, we're going to finish up the recap of day 2, because I don't know about you guys, but when we were watching that yesterday morning while we waited, I thought that Anjanette Levy, I hope I'm saying her name right. Is it Levy or Levy? I thought she did an absolutely phenomenal job recapping and giving us information about the testimony that we probably would not have known otherwise. And I learned some stuff about the case because of her recap. And I just thought she did an excellent job. And then there are other sources for recap. I was trying to find more videos, so because obviously this is a visual medium here on the YouTubes, and so that's what I was trying to do, is have a visual recap. But there are some other really good, like, articles that recap, in particular. Hey, Kate Does Crime. All right, let me give you this. Let me drop the link for you, Kate, so that you can come on up. All right. And let me also drop Kate's link. Sub to her, but I got to go open up another tab on that YouTube's. So yeah, I read like a really excellent article that summarized yesterday's testimony after is that you, Kate? I hope so. Let me put up the I hardly get to use this, so we're gonna use it. Okay.
I
Hopefully
love
that.
it.
Oh, it
It's
doesn't
me.
do anything. Oh, because it's supposed to be this one. There you go. Thank God it was you.
Please call Valo screen. I love it.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How long did you go last night? What time did you leave town?
Not that long after you got off, but
Okay.
then I went on Queens for a little bit afterwards, and I didn't go to bed till really late because then I laid down and I put on the Lori Valo new documentary on Netflix to try and fall asleep
Oh.
to, and then I got really into that
Yeah, you
and couldn't
can't.
fall
That
asleep.
was a mistake, babe.
It was a mistake. It was a
Yeah,
big
you
mistake.
cannot get to sleep over that, because I have to say that as much as I followed that case, I did learn some things from
I
that
did too. It
documentary
was
that
excellent.
I was really pleasantly surprised about. quite honestly.
Me too.
So I
I
always like
watched
to
a
learn new
bunch of
stuff.
documentaries, and I was shocked. I learned a lot more. I mean, I knew most of the stuff, but there was like little itty bitty tidbits in there that I didn't know.
Yes,
Like I didn't know she was on Wheel of Fortune. How crazy was that?
I'm going to give it to you, Amelia. Just give me 1 second. Yes, I did. Okay, that I knew. That's
I
the one
didn't
I
know that.
knew. But what I didn't know is that Charles Valo was like her what, third marriage, and that
Oh yeah.
and that I didn't know about the about Colby's outcry.
I think she was married in total 5 times.
Five times.
5 times including Chad. I think. Hold on. William, the guy from high school. Wait, was William the guy from high school, or is there
Yes,
another guy
I
before?
think it's William was the guy from high school. Then there
Then
was
Ryan.
yes, then
Then
Charles, then Chad. So four,
Chad.
I think.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm thinking there was a guy before William, but I'm not sure.
Well,
I could be
tonight,
getting it wrong.
yeah, tonight. Here's Kate Does Crimes channel link. You guys go over there and
Thank you.
like and subscribe to her. She is an excellent true crime content creator. And let me just say this: we need to do better in this community as creators and as subs, and support true crime creators because it's hard work to do this. It's not an easy job. You don't just flick live and be like, there's the content. You have to, it takes work.
Yeah, it does.
It takes work, especially if you want to be accurate about it. Like I've been somewhat trying. Okay, so I follow the Kaylee Rodney case. Is that how you say her last name?
Kylie Rodney.
Kylie Rodney.
Yeah.
Because there's Kaylee is the baby in this case. Kylie
Yeah.
Rodney, and I followed her actual case, right? But
Yeah.
then obviously there's the sideshow.
Oh yeah. I try not to go into the sideshow too much. Well, I try and stay away from like accusing the teenagers and stuff. I just can't.
Yes, I'm talking
Because like
about the
there's just nothing
sideshow
there for me.
of the content creators now.
Oh yeah.
And I can't follow it because I guess I missed too much. But I did watch like a little bit of it, and I'm just like, what the hell is going? I can't figure it out. So
It's
I don't.
turning into like another Watts like Summerwell circus again.
Yes, and Lord knows we do not need another damn ass Watts Island.
No, we don't. I am fine with staying away from Watts Island
Same.
forever.
Me too. I have no desire at
Me
all
neither.
to go
Not
back to
even
that.
for a night.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. I briefly went back with some because there was a little bit of some stuff going on recently.
Mhm.
But then I was like, okay, I'm good. I remember now why I don't want to be back on that island at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah,
ever.
last night I was a little worried because I know people want to keep talking about the Kylie case, but like I just had enough of it. And I'm
Well,
like, you know what, guys? I'm going to take you with me down another road. Let's talk about this. And
yes,
it turned out really well. I was
yeah,
happy
it did.
that,
You did a great job. You really did. You did an excellent job. I think that there's only so much speculation that you can, there, it's a fine line, obviously, right? About
yeah,
theorizing and speculating and stuff like that before then it just gets out of hand. And
yeah,
I feel in her case that for me personally, I I'm going to I said everything like in chats and stuff that was going to say about this case until we have more concrete information, which would be something from the medical examiner or something from law enforcement. And I will say I find it interesting that some of her belongings were left in the lake, i.e., the laptop. I think it was right. Was that
yeah.
confirmed?
It wasn't confirmed, but I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it was hers. Like
Okay.
I'm pretty solid that it was hers. Like even the stickers on it were a thing. Like it was very specific. So I don't think he would have faked it, but I don't
Okay.
know if I don't think it was confirmed by Ellie that
Okay.
Ellie didn't even bother to want to go
Which,
and look.
see, that's interesting to me because what Ellie does is telling, but also what they don't do is telling.
Yeah.
And I think what people are maybe have forgotten is that um there are in a case where a body is recovered that's intact, not skeletal remains. That's difficult, although depending on what happened, what state the skeletal remains are found in. Like, for example, if you find skeletal remains and there's a hole in the skull, you can surmise in initially that this was not, uh, depending on where it's at, obviously, that's something that needs further investigation, right? Especially if it's out in the middle of nowhere. Because we have that happened in Pasco County. At the beginning of the week, they found some skeletal remains. But there are some things that a preliminary autopsy, which is just the overview, when just looking at the body, that they can make some determinations on sometimes, not all the time, not every time. But the fact that that law enforcement doesn't seem interested in that stuff, to me, is likely indicative of the fact that they feel like it was an accident. They know stuff we don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. But I still feel like they should have went and got the stuff, you know what I mean? But
I
I
think they
agree.
should have. I think they should have went and, if nothing else, just
Hmm.
take it into evidence and note that where it was found and all of that, and um, perhaps try to retrieve anything off of it. Um, okay, here's Nonstop Mom with the list of Lori Vallow's husbands. So Nelson, William, Joe, Charles, and Chad. So you're right, five.
Yeah.
Five. I haven't even been married legally once. I've been with
Right.
my baby daddy since I was 18 years old, and I'm 45 now. So I've outlasted. Lori's over here with five whole ass weddings. Like,
Right.
it's crazy.
I was shocked about the outcry. I didn't know that.
Yeah, neither did I.
That blew me away.
Neither did I. And I was not prepared for the news about um, Colby that came out. What was it, this week, or was it the
Oh
end of
yeah.
last week?
End of last week, I think,
Yeah,
or sometime last week. Yeah, that was wild.
yeah.
All
And
this.
I've reserved really commenting on the veracity of the claim because I never want to be one of those people that um, victim blames or doesn't believe the victim. This is what I say. When those kind of things happen, it's best left up to law enforcement to sort out.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like
So,
commenting on that stuff either because I'm not gonna say how I don't know either way. It's not
right,
my place.
exactly. And it's not, that's one of those things that, like, we don't have access to stuff like law enforcement does. And even media. Like, I have an author and journalist, George Jared. He's my bud now. Um, he's done a ton of he's done a ton of true crime. That's all he does. That's all he writes. And it is amazing to me what he, as a journalist and an author, has access to. And I'm just like, can you put me on your team? Because I'm mainly just so I
Right?
can search for shit.
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love how they get access to some of like I love following some of the journalists that follow the crime. Especially in Twitter. I'd be on Twitter like, ooh. Especially when they're
Yes.
following trials and they got all the information they're just posting up. I get so into it. I was
Yes.
like
And
that in the Morphe case too.
yes. And with this case, this is another thing that's interesting. This is why I admire Anjanette, because sh there's no electronics allowed in the courtroom.
I just gotta
So
say that courtroom is a whole mess. Have you seen like the walls like crumbling in the background. Like, what is
Yes.
it? Looks like a basement from 1975.
How about this chair situation for the audience?
Oh, I haven't even seen that. I just
Okay.
saw behind the stand, the walls like
I can't have that
crumbling.
huge ass crack in the plaster and all those wires, and then the monitor is above the witness's head. This is what is scary to me about that. The
Oh my
plaster is
god.
cracking, and the arm that holds the TV is screwed into that wall. If the plaster
Yeah.
is, I'm concerned about the overall stability of that arm, and is it anchored securely? I have some concerns and some questions
Yeah. I
because
was
that would.
like looking at like the pictures and I'm like, what in the world? What is this courtroom? It looks like
Wait
a
till they pan.
basement or something. Like,
Yes, wait till they pan out and you see the chair situation. So
oh
for the
my goodness.
gallery, okay, so they have a mixture of it's not benches, they're individual like wooden chairs that from like old school courthouses, right? From
Oh
old,
my goodness.
back in the day, right? Then they have metal folding chairs.
Nuh-uh.
Yes.
And
Like
it doesn't even look like they have like lighting in there. Like, I mean, there's
no.
lighting, but it looks like dark. Like it's
Yes.
really,
Yes.
really
And
bad.
then let me say hi to hi Mo. Just coming in. Who would I miss? Hi Max. Hi Corky. Who else have I missed? I feel like there's somebody. Nonstop Mom. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Um. Then there's like four, I think, chairs that look like these are the chairs if you were at a party. That not even at a party. If you were going to something where you knew you'd have to sit for a while, these are the chairs that everybody would be fighting about because they got they're like office chairs. They've got cushions. They're
Oh
comfortable,
yeah.
fancy chairs. Yes.
So they got
Yes.
some of them too? Can
Yes.
you imagine having to sit through court in a fold out metal chair?
No.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
I cannot. Okay, I'm also stuck on this as well. So, the jury, this
Uh-huh.
is now keeping in mind, this is a 6 to 8 week trial. And we all know that jurors don't get paid much.
Yeah.
The jurors are responsible for their own lunch.
What?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And so much this, Southern lady, after Donald Stone got off the stand yesterday and he went over to um, the his mom. Would it be his mom? Yes. No. How would they be related? If he were cousins to Kenneth, and it would be his aunt. Yes, his aunt. The watching him leave the stand and then go back and go into the audience as he's making his way out of the courtroom after testimony. Is it his grandma? Okay, I'm so very confused about this. I listen. I'm doing good. Okay, aunt. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm doing good to keep the primary family tree. Hey, 5 and 5, 6, 7, 8 straight. I can't. It's going to be a little difficult for me with extra people. Okay, hold on. Let me
Yeah,
add this
right?
to the stream because they're see what's what now. Let me hide make this bigger and hide
What
the
is that,
chat.
a painting behind him?
It is a painting.
16, 2022. We begin another day of trial.
What the frack?
Wagner the 4th.
Sorry, y'all. Okay, what the hell, YouTube? Stop messing with
Richard
me.
Nash, the state of Ohio, is represented by the prosecuting attorney Rob Junk and by special prosecuting attorneys Angela Canepa and Andrew Wilson. Also, special agent Ryan Scheider with Ohio BCI and I is present at council table. Are there any preliminary matters that council wishes to bring up before we bring the jury in?
Yes, zoom in on George so I can see his outfit of the day. I know it's the leather vest, but let's see what shirt he's wearing. Because those are important details to me. Yep, thank you, Law and Crime. Okay, it appears we're on day 2 of the white shirt.
day 2 of the white shirt.
Yeah, yesterday was the white shirts. Well, see, the thing is that I I didn't realize in all these days of trial that we're into that the vest is leather until I was looking at some other stuff. It's a leather vest at the top.
I thought it
And
was like one of those like silky
no, it's leather, which
wow.
that's makes it even yeah. And yes, Southern lady, maybe we should all chip in to his commissary and get him some prunes. Um, and everybody, okay, so the first day of the trial, I thought while we were waiting th- that Law and Crime had got new graphics with the paint. I now know what it is. It's a painting, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, now so then I went on that night and I was like, I realize it's now a painting. And I said, it looks like they got somebody in a prison uniform holding a book. Okay, wrong about that. It's obviously Lady Justice, or it's supposed to be, and it's the flag. So I am no longer going to guess about this damn ass painting behind them anymore because it's very clear that I can't tell. All right, here comes the jury. Yeah, see?
I got that ugly red carpet too. Like,
Yes.
I'm telling you,
And
it looks like a 1970s basement. That's what it reminds me.
it's yeah, and it's sad because I think it's I think it's about a situation of basically a poor county, and they
Yeah.
don't have the funds to update the courthouse. But for Pete's sake, we should all be able to really chip in and get those dadgum jurors lunch.
Yeah,
is
at least for
terrible.
that. He looks like he's about to audition for a starring role in the next local Confederate War reenactment.
Oh my God.
Good morning.
That's what they said in chat. I was reading Tony's.
Do any of you have anything to report to the
Oh my
court, or
gosh,
anything
Tony.
that feel the court should know, or have any questions concerning procedure or anything that you wish to
Oh
ask?
yeah, I think Jake and Angela should have to be on
Hearing none,
cam.
then,
I hope
I
they
do
don't.
too.
Is the state
I do
ready to
too.
proceed today?
Yes, sir.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, the state may call its next witness.
Thank you. State of call, Agent Shane Hanshaw.
So if they don't go on camera, can you still hear them?
No. Okay, they have an option. They have 3 choices. They can opt out completely, meaning no
Raise your right hand.
no
Do you solemnly
video, no
swear or
audio.
affirm that the testimony you're
They
about to give shall be
can
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
opt
but
in
the truth, and
completely,
you shall answer unto God.
or
Yes, sir,
they
I do.
can
All right, be seated.
choose for just audio.
The
Gotcha.
state may examine.
Thank you.
Look at this Oh my goodness.
Do you
Oh
see
no.
how this is dangerous?
This is so
y'all.
dangerous. What
Look
in
at
the
that.
world?
Yes, look at that gigantic crack in that plaster, y'all.
Oh no.
All right,
No,
nice
Mo,
loud
that
voice.
was that
Can you give everyone your name, please?
that was it. After
Yes,
Luke,
my
that
name is
was
Shane
it.
Hanshaw.
And can you spell your last name for the court reporter?
Yes, it's Hanshaw.
Mr. Hanshaw, where do you work?
I work for the Ohio Attorney General's Office, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation.
And does that go by an acronym BCI?
Yes, it does.
Okay. If you could take a couple seconds and tell the jury, what is the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation? Where are you headquarters? What kind of work does BCI do?
We have multiple headquarters. My specific headquarters is at 1560 State Route 56. That's in London. We have my home office is there, based out of there. We have the BCI laboratory. One of them is located there. As far as my job entails, we have multiple units and multiple disciplines within the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. And I'm currently assigned to the Special Investigation Unit.
And you said there's multiple units and multiple disciplines. What are some of the other disciplines?
There is the crime scene unit. There is a special victims unit. There are narcotics units.
He did,
Just several
Tony, yes.
disciplines in those particular fields.
And you said there's a lab there at BCI as well?
Yes, there is.
And what kind of different work does the lab do?
The lab processes and examines things like trace evidence, documents, DNA evidence. Again, they have multiple disciplines within the laboratory.
And in addition to that office there in London, are there satellite offices in other areas of the state?
Yes, there are multiple throughout the state.
And those offices, do they do the same type of work, or what kind of work do those offices do as well?
Most generally, they do the same type of work. There are a few labs that specialize in other things.
Hey,
But as
Super
far as the
Mama
offices in
Happy
the
Friday.
investigations portion, it's relatively the same, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about your background or your employment history taking you up to your current employment. So when did you start out in law enforcement?
I was basically commissioned as a peace officer in 1990 by the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office. I did complete the specified training academy for the state of Ohio to become a certified peace officer. After I completed that, I temporarily worked part-time for about 4 months, and then I was approached regarding a position as a road officer. I began as a road officer for the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, and I progressed and was promoted to sergeant. From there, I was promoted to investigation division. And in 2005, I applied at the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, actually 2004, and was hired in 2005.
Let me stop. Let me jump in real quick on you.
Yes.
But let's back up. Let's talk about when you were at Lawrence County and you worked on the road. What were your duties on the road?
My duties as a road unit were to handle all manner of calls, burglaries, thefts, and it would entail question deaths, homicides, things of that nature.
Typical sheriff's deputy, is that what you were?
Yes.
And then at some point did you move into their investigation section?
After being promoted to sergeant and working as a sergeant, then I was moved into the investigations unit.
Tell the jury, when you moved into the investigations unit there at the sheriff's office, what kind of stuff did you do there? What were your responsibilities there?
At that particular time, we were very limited on investigators, and I was basically the primary investigator. I would handle all manner of violent crimes and unviolent crimes such as burglaries, thefts, child services cases, just about any kind of criminal activity would be assigned to me to investigate.
How long were you in the investigation section there at the sheriff's office?
Approximately 3 years.
And at some point after that, is that when you applied to BCI?
Yes, it was. Actually, I was approached by agents from BCI and spoke with them and determined that it was something that I would like to do and applied. And eventually I did come aboard.
Tell us about that application process. What did you have to do to get a job at BCI?
So
That
while
was a
we're
very long
listening
application
to
process.
this officer's
They would do
resume on
interviews,
LinkedIn, could you guys do
with
me a favor
obviously me
and
at my
give me a
home.
thumbs
They
up on the
interviewed my
stream?
family
Pretty
at home.
please.
Out of my presence, they interviewed my son. Out of my son and my wife's presence, they interviewed my neighbors. They interviewed my coworkers, actually teachers from my school, judges. That was just their portion of the background. There was a polygraph had to be taken. I had to submit to a polygraph, taken that, passed that. Financial documents, they look at your finances. They also, you have to take a test, a competency test. And it was a long process. Probably,
Yikes.
I'm thinking about a 9-month process.
I'm telling y'all right
And
now,
from that point,
if they start talking to my
declared,
ex-teachers and
a
stuff,
candidate
your
and
girl ain't gonna be
made an
qualified
offer
for
at that point.
BCI. I'm not gonna
So
play.
once you received that offer, you accepted that offer, is that
It's
correct?
just
Yes, I
true.
did.
And then
Same.
how did that work? What did you start doing for BCI? What was your initial job with them?
My initial job, I worked in the crime scene units.
Especially if they hit up old Mrs.
When I first came
Lacanienta,
aboard,
then
I
I'm
was
really
assigned to a
hosed.
field training officer for about a 16-week period. After that, during that period, I would work sometimes myself on things that I was more familiar with. I would work with other agents. It's kind of a way to integrate you into the unit and see what you know and what you don't know. After the 16-week period, from there, I was assigned to work southeast and southwest at that time, really all over the state, but predominantly those areas, and to work crime scenes.
Okay. And when you say to work crime scenes, what exactly does that, everybody's seen CSI. So what exactly does that mean in real life when you work for VCI?
There's a little more to it than that. You have to be prepared as far as understanding the meanings of specific laws regarding search warrants, when you can search, when you can't search. That would be the beginning. As far as the actual crime scene processing itself, there are multiple disciplines, and I always broke those down into different areas as opposed to lumping them together. I wanted to be proficient in every area, and so I would break that down, such as bloodstain or shooting incident reconstruction or footwear or developing latent prints, all of those things. And once you put
I get
those
it, Corky,
disciplines
and I'll say
together,
this, I'm
then
not
you use
judging,
those in the
and I
field.
don't think
That
that's
was my job.
an
How long
accurate
did you work in that
stereotype.
position?
And
Or
I, being
telling
from
me,
the
CSI?
South, I get it.
Actually,
I get it.
it was right at 15 years when
I
left.
don't
I
feel
was
like
the
that. It just seems to me that this is
longest running
not as
agent that we had as
well-funded
far as
county
getting
as
into
other
crime scene.
counties in other places.
So when you left, where'd you go
And that's
next?
just the
I
truth.
went to the Special Investigations Unit, and that's where I currently am.
And tell us, what's the difference? What do you do in special investigation?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Investigations. And then what's the difference between what you do now and what you did at crime scene?
I
I
hate
came
when that
into Special
happens.
Investigations.
I don't know why YouTube does it. It's so
about 2.5,
YouTube be
closer to
trying
3
me
years
lately.
ago.
I don't know what their deal is.
The difference in
Yeah, I'll be just move my
the
mouse
crime
and
scene
things will just
investigator,
start getting
special
messed up.
investigations
Right.
investigator, the crime scene would be predominantly in charge of the scene, the things that were processed within the scene, the evidence, evidence collection, processing, and things of that nature. My
And
job
this
now
too.
would be basically to be briefed by that crime scene agent as to what he or she had developed within the crime scene or collected, and to get their thoughts on the scene itself.
And do you do follow-up investigation, interviews, that kind of stuff in your current position?
Absolutely, yes. That's part of the Special Investigation Unit, to follow these things up and to continue. The crime scene agent, when they're finished with that scene, they're not necessarily finished with the case. They can follow up with that case, but it's on behalf of the evidence and submissions and things of that nature.
And for the most part, once the crime scene investigator has done their work at the scene, do they basically brief up the investigators and then let them basically take over the investigation?
Yes, that's the main plan, is to debrief at the end. Everybody just kind of come together, discuss the scene itself, and find out what avenues will be explored from there.
And then from time to time, as the investigators are moving through the course of the investigation, do they reach back out to you at crime scene and ask you to do some follow-up? Hey, look, we need this tested, or hey, look, can you go back and take another look? Does that happen from time to time?
Absolutely. As I said earlier, when the crime scene agent stops that portion of the investigation, he or she can be called again to follow up in certain areas. For instance, if additional information has been obtained and something else would need to be processed or collected in a specific manner, then that agent could be called.
Now, back in 2016, were you still in the crime scene investigation?
Amelia, don't ask
Yes, I
me
was.
where on a, I
And
mean,
I
to tell
imagine,
you on a map that I
in order
can't
to
see,
do that
right,
job,
where Ohio is
there's
or what it's
a
by if I'm not looking at a
lot of
map.
training
Remember,
that you have to go through. Is that
up
correct?
until very
Yes, the
recently,
training,
I thought that Alaska was
you
down
are
there by
never trained up
Hawaii,
enough.
because
Our
that's how it is
training is
on the school
continuous.
maps they pull down that are
And as a matter of
behind,
fact,
you
do
know,
they
in front
make
of the
you,
chalkboard.
in the crime scene, do they make you go through continuous annual training?
I'm not good with.
Absolutely,
I mean, I
yes.
can if it's on if
Let's
I can
talk about
see a
some
map,
of the
yes,
training
but
that you
not
had
just.
to do your job as a crime scene investigator.
But I don't think it's
Back in
just one state over
2007,
from
Did you
Pennsylvania.
take
That
a criminal
I don't think that's right,
investigative
because it's in the
analysis?
Midwest.
Ohio?
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
Ohio's in the
Tell us about
Midwest.
that.
It's
What
like
kind
in
of
the
stuff did you
middle of
learn
the
there,
country.
and what did they teach you?
It's close. It's close to Pennsylvania.
Actually, I
It
have a
is.
portion
Yeah,
of
Is
it's
it?
connected. Yeah.
See,
So like,
Are you speaking
there's a
of
tiny itty bitty
similar to a crime scene
sliver of West
reconstruction?
Virginia,
Sure.
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
the top of
we would have,
Ohio and the
horses
top northern
in
PA connect.
the agency,
Northern
BCI
Okay.
itself
Northwest
feels
PA
that it is very
and
important to have
uh
continuing training, and not only from
northeast
within our
Ohio
organization,
connect at the top.
but from outside of
So
our
that must be where the
organization.
southern
And so
drawl
we would
comes from.
bring
Okay, that makes
multiple
sense.
instructors
See,
to BCI
geography
or
is not
to
my forte.
the
Neither is
OFADA, we
geometry and
call it, the
geography are
training
not
academy
your
next door to
girls'
BCI.
best
I
This
thought
subject.
particular training
Arkansas was
that
like
we had,
right under Ohio. I had no idea
trainers
Arkansas was so
come
far in the
from
middle,
our agency and train
west
us
and
in the
south.
field of crime scene
Yes,
reconstruction,
Arkansas
which would
is by
entail
Tennessee.
a lot of the
Yeah, I
things that
didn't
we
realize it
Texas.
was so low. I swore it was up higher, but
2009, did you do a
I,
40-hour
like I know all
class
the shapes of the
in
states and
basic
roughly where
bloodstain
they
pattern
go.
analysis?
Yes,
Yeah,
I did.
And like if you showed
I-
me a map, I'd know
Once again, we
everyone.
had an
But
individual who I feel is
yeah. If I
if
saw a
one of the
map, I would
best
be
in
fine.
yeah,
the
But it's
world,
like
in my opinion,
for you to
trying
be
to think
just
all that in
understated
my
as an
head,
instructor.
yeah, no, ma'am, I can't
We
do it
brought him
either.
to BCI.
and Amelia, I'm
instructed
from
by the name
PA
of
too,
Paul Keish.
actually. So
Came to
that's only
BCI
the only reason
to
I know
train
Ohio's
us
connected.
in basic bloodstain analysis, and obviously I would have more
Or
training.
else I wouldn't have. But
I'm from
And in
Texas. I know
2009,
what
did you also
borders
do a
us.
24-hour course
yeah,
in shooting
exactly.
reconstruction?
Yes, I did.
But
Tell us
I
about
live in
that.
Florida
What kind
now,
of- How was that
so-
training? What kind of stuff did you learn?
In that training, we would learn the basics of shooting incident reconstruction.
I'm
Like,
which
over
would
in
entail,
Eastern PA
marking
though. I'm like
bullet
right outside
holes,
of Philadelphia.
oh,
trajectories,
okay. Like when
and
people with
things
like
of
when
that
stuff
nature.
happens in
Did you
Florida
learn-
and I'm
When you
covering
talk
it,
about
people are like, "Is
trajectory,
that by you,
is
Jen?"
that basically angles?
And I'm like, "Man, I
Yes,
don't know."
could
So
be
I have to
angles
pull
and
up
elevations.
In that
the
training, did you
Googles
also learn how to
and look because I don't know
track
where. I mean, I know
a
where
bullet
the
hole, a
big
bullet
stuff in
strike, or
Florida is,
ballistic
right? But
event,
not like these other little
through a
towns because I'm
wall,
not
through
like
a
from here.
structure.
I've only
Yes.
been here for like 5 years. 5 years
Yeah.
this year.
In 2011, did you do an advanced bloodstain pattern analysis course?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I
Once
think this
again,
guy is gonna
the
talk about the
instructor would have
shoes a
been
little
Paul
bit.
Keish. He was brought in
Oh,
to London, and we trained for another 40 hours.
oh, you're by Lancaster,
and,
so you're not far from me then,
getting in the
Amelia.
advanced stage
I'm
of the
if you know where
bloodstain
like King of
analysis.
Prussia is, I'm near there.
And in 2013,
Yes,
did you do
nonstop,
a
Mom.
forensic shooting
I do need a
reconstruction course?
geography class,
I
but
did.
this is, goes
Okay,
to
and
my
tell us
theory
what kind of
that
stuff that you learned there?
nobody
Once
is a
again,
10,
it was similar
right?
to
Because 10 is perfect.
what we had
We all
had
have a
prior to
flaw.
that. My first
Geography
course, and
is
that
Jen
would have
Lou's
been
flaw,
with
among
Mr.
others.
Hoos.
It's
We
just
had
the
a different
one.
instructor that had came in, Mr.
I have
Hayes,
several.
and we had went over shooting incident reconstruction. It was both in classroom and out on the range. We had actually brought cars to our range and fired into those cars, and we were charged with finding out origins, basic origins of where the shot would have came from.
In 2020, did you take a course in fluid dynamics and bloodstain pattern analysis?
Yes, I did.
Okay, tell the jury, what'd you learn there? What's that?
Once again, I would learn things again on bloodstain analysis, more of the dynamics of the blood itself, the viscosity of the blood, or the thickness of it. We would say oil has different thicknesses for different purposes. Blood has a different thickness than water does, therefore it reacts different in different situations.
Have you received, in addition to, you talked specifically about some of the ballistics training that you've had and some of the blood training you have you had general crime scene training as well?
Yes.
And in 2000, did you do a course called death investigation?
Yes.
2001, did you actually go through an instructor training course?
Yes, I did.
And are you certified to be an instructor?
I was at that time under my employer for a certain period of time. We were told that we could not have secondary employment. So I was unable to do that and my certificate lapsed, but I was certified to teach, I think it was 34 disciplines within the academy.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, for a while, did you actually do some teaching in those areas?
Yes, I did. I was an instructor at the Basic Police Academy in Lawrence County.
Have you also done some teaching for Collins Career Center
Yes, I have.
and Buckeye Hills Career Center?
Yes.
And again, what did you teach?
Can somebody
in that
answer,
area?
Mo? Because I sure, you
Basics
know,
of law
your
enforcement
girl here
and
gonna be wrong.
predominantly focusing on the crime
But I feel
scene,
like the answer is yes.
portion of the
I can look it up. Hold on.
Thank you, Kate.
Are you currently up to date on all your mandatory annual training?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wait, here, let me hot.
And are you a member of any professional organizations?
Yes, several organizations, such as the the National Sheriff's Association, the Ohio, basically it's an investigators association in Ohio for forensics, several different members.
Have you had to come into court and testify about your examination of various crime scenes?
Yes, I have many times.
And from time to time, have you actually been called in to testify as an expert in areas?
I have been declared as an expert several times.
In what areas have you testified as an expert in the past?
I believe bloodstain analysis.
It is Southern Ohio.
2016. Again, you were working BCI 2016.
Well, look
is that
at there.
correct?
I was
Yes.
right.
And if you could tell the jury back in 2016, when you were in crime scene, how would a local agency that needed help on a case, how would they contact BCI? How would they get you?
So it's
the
really,
crimes that
it's
you need to
pretty
come out?
close to Kentucky and West,
At that
both
particular
Kentucky
time,
and West Virginia.
There were different ways that we would be called in from time to time, but predominantly somebody would make a call, reach out to somebody in our London office, and from there the request would be evaluated, and then the agents would be notified. There were times when I would be called by a particular agency that was close to me, but then I would back up and it would go through the procedure of going through supervision and then being assigned that.
And back in 2016, how was the crime scene investigation unit for BCI organized? Were you in different quadrants of the state, different areas? How did that work?
Yes, it changed so often then. There were times when we were just called crime scene southeast, and then sometimes southwest, northeast, northwest. There was a period of time when it was just split in half. There was a period of time when we were expected to go in different directions. I believe in 2016, we were just in different quadrants of the state.
And what quadrant would you have been assigned to in 2016?
Predominantly southeast.
And back on April 22nd, 2016, were you called out to assist the Pike County Sheriff's Office with a crime scene that they had?
Yes, I was.
And again, did Pike County fall within the southeast, or were you called in to help with a different quadrant?
I believe at that point that it fell into that area or that zone of southeast.
Do you remember how you were notified that Pike County needed assistance, and what did you do when you got that call?
Yes, I was contacted early that morning by my supervisor. At that time, it would have been Special Agent Supervisor Gary Wilgus over the crime scene unit.
Okay. And what did he tell you, and what did you do when you got that call?
He basically gave not very specific information, because at that time we didn't have a lot of specific information, but he did say that there were multiple scenes, that they were death scenes, and they were located in Pike County. And I was told at that point to proceed to Pike County, and there was a rally point that was going to be in Piketon.
Yes,
I
nonstop.
believe
By
originally
Jen
it
and
was
Map
at the
Fund.
police
I
department.
put it right
Traveled
above
there.
my whiteboard where
Any
I have
idea what
my
time you
to-do
initially got
list.
that call?
I
anytime
don't
people
have
are
the
asking me
exact
where
time.
things are, I
It
can
was
say.
earlier that morning.
Oh,
It
I
was
know where that
shortly
is.
after my
That's right
shift had
here.
began,
And what time did your shift typically begin?
somewhere around 8 a.m.
Jen, were you there for the
Did
Upchurch
you
connection?
report to the
Were
Pike
you in
County
my
Police
stream for
Yes, I
that?
did.
Okay.
No.
Talk the jury through
I
when you
missed
get
that part.
there. What's going on? What's the plan? How
I'll
are
wait
you
till they're done talking
basically
about this, and then I'll tell
Okay.
you.
right to your next
Okay.
move?
I feel like it's about to get juicy.
When I arrived,
Oh, you know what? Yes, I
we
was.
were in the
That's
process
a lie. I
of
know
still
now what
gathering
exactly what you're
information.
talking about. And yes,
people
when they're
were
done
still
talking,
in the process
I
of
want you to tell
coming
people
actually
this
to the
story.
rally point,
Yeah.
so
it
that we
was
could
crazy.
be briefed on what had occurred. Eventually, at that particular
Yes,
time,
Mo.
we knew that there were 3
All right.
scenes. And so
He's not really giving
those
us
scenes
evidence
were
about the scene,
kind of
so tell us, tell
divided up
everybody,
among
Kate,
the agents.
that about
So
Ryan
I
Upchurch's
was
connection to
assigned
this
scene 1.
case.
Yeah. So
Initially, we did have a
So last
scene
night,
where
I had a lot of people who were really into like talking about the Kylie case. So we started talking about Upchurch in the beginning, and then I was kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna take you guys down a rabbit hole and switch the conversation. So as I started telling the story about this, one of the people on my panel, Big Al, he's like, wait a minute. he's like, I know, like, I've heard of this case before. I recognize that picture. And he was like, I'm pretty sure Ryan Upchurch talked about this before. I'm like, why would Ryan Upchurch even talk about this case? Like, this is in Ohio. The dude lives in Tennessee, like, there's no connection there. And he's like, no, really. Like, I swear to God, they were like at his concert or something like that. And then he put up a post about it. So he's like, I'm going to mute real quick. I'll be back. So he comes back and he's like, this is going to blow your mind. Well, so I looked up the date of the concert. So Ryan Upchurch did a video basically saying that he did a concert in Columbus, Ohio, which was March 5th, 2016. And he met Hannah Roden at the concert. Her and Corey, I guess. Was she with Corey at the time? Or I don't know if she was with Corey or if she was with
Charlie.
Charlie.
Charlie. I feel like if it was right before the murders, then it was Corey.
Yeah. Well, he has a picture of them both. I couldn't really. I don't know the difference in what they look like, so I couldn't tell. But
Okay.
they met him backstage or whatever after the concert, and they took a picture with him, and Upchurch started talking to Charlie or whatever, or Corey. Sorry, Corey. It was March 5th, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Corey.
No, sorry, March 5th. I think it was 3/5. Yeah, March 5th. So Corey and him exchanged numbers because they got to talking for a little bit, like backstage. And they were like, hey, if you're going to be in Columbus for a bit, like come ride 4-wheelers and stuff with us. So he was like, yeah. He took their number down. And then he went to go ask his tour manager, like, hey, can I go ride 4-wheelers with them? And they were like, nah, we got to get back to Nashville. Like, we don't have time. So Ryan Upchurch leaves and goes back to Nashville. And he says he's, next thing he knows that he's sitting in his living room watching TV. And it comes up on the news. And they show the girl, and he realizes it's the girl that he met backstage, and that, him and Corey exchanged numbers. And then he shows the picture of it was Hannah Roden. He showed it on his YouTube. And it was just so strange because I had no idea there was even a connection. Like, what are the odds that all this Upchurch drama is going on or talking about him? And then I go into this case. This is the second time this has happened to me. Same thing happened to me when we were talking about the OJ case. I had no idea it was the anniversary of their deaths on the day that I talked about the OJ case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just happen to, every time I do like a case, it just happens to some weird coincidence. Ryan Upchurch, Corky. So if you haven't been following the Kylie Rodney case, he's a famous country rapper who's tried his hand at true crime, and it's not going well for him.
There's been some hitches in the get in the get up. I'm not gonna. I mean, but I'm gonna leave it there because it's a very, I don't understand it all, and it's super complicated. There's a ton, and it's messy. So I
It's
just am
messy.
staying
It's
out of
very
it.
messy.
Yeah,
Very
but I
messy.
do think it's interesting that he is, had met Hannah
that we would need
and Corey.
to sustain us
Yep.
through the crime scene process.
Very
When you show
weird.
up on a scene like that,
Very.
Well, Upchurch
Small
is
world.
involved then.
take note of
Nonstop.
conditions, temperature, what the weather's like,
It
anything
must
like
be a
Absolutely, yes.
that.
conspiracy.
Did you
Right.
do that morning?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the jury what were the conditions
Yeah,
when you
Ryan
arrived there
Upchurch.
that day?
Yeah, Ryan.
It was partly cloudy that day, predominantly at that specific time. It was cloudy. And the temperature was about 72 degrees when I arrived.
If you could, again, first of all, does that exhibit in front of you, does that truly and accurately depict the way that area looked the day that you showed up?
I think it does, yes.
Okay. And if you could, give the jury a basic layout of what you were observing there when you first pulled up. Where did you pull your truck? Where did you go to rally with the local officers? And what were your basic observations when you very first pulled up?
May I stand, Your Honor?
Sorry.
May I stand?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's a little hard. This would ultimately be the residence. When I first arrived at the scene, obviously you can see here that there's a lot of buildings, there's a lot of vehicles, there's a lot of things, but our primary focus at that particular time would have been this area. I put my crime scene truck on the roadway out here. I did not go inside the tape at that point. When the other crime scene agent, which would have been Special Agent Price, arrived, and parked his crime scene vehicle outside.
George is unattended,
And I was
y'all.
very
Where's
close
his
to-
lawyers?
This is a mailbox, and on the side it says 4077, and then it has the name written on it.
Thank you.
That's weird.
After you
All right,
initially
see, those are the good chairs.
met
Here
or
we
made
go.
contact with the
Now
local
pay
officer,
attention. See how
did
the good
you
chairs are in
do
the
a
front?
quick peek inside that trailer just to get your bearings and see what you had?
At some point I did that, yes.
Okay.
I ain't never seen anything like that.
No, me either.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes, state exhibits.
But I will say this, if anybody deserves the good chairs, it's the family. So I'm glad to see they're seated in the good chairs.
Yeah.
A194,
For sure.
A55, A155, and A183. Now, let me ask you this. As part of your duties that day, did you do extensive photography and documentation of that scene?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Prior to coming to testify today, did you have the opportunity to review the pictures that you took on that day?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And those pictures, when you reviewed them, had they been marked States Exhibits A1 through A485?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And the pictures that you reviewed, when you reviewed them, did you initial and put the date on them that you reviewed them?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And all of those pictures, States Exhibits A1 through A485, did they truly and accurately depict the pictures that you took that day?
I believe that they did when I reviewed them, yes.
Okay. When you first stepped up to do a peek inside, and again, this wasn't your full examination of the house. This wasn't when you were going. It's just an initial look. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So just
tell
so
us
y'all
what stood
know-
out to you when you
hold
did
on
that
a
initial
sec.
look?
I'm just going to pause it briefly.
When I initially,
Just so you know, obviously this gentleman here is going to be testifying about crime scenes, and we've already heard a little bit of testimony about the crime scenes and some of the stuff that was discovered. So I just want to caution everybody, this is a trigger warning potentially later. It could be 1 minute from now, 10 minutes from now, but this is your warning because obviously it's crime scene talk. All right, here we go.
I went up to on the front porch and looked inside. I knew at that point that it was going to be something obviously it was going to have to back out on until I could do some other things. But at that particular
Oh, they're
point,
back.
I noticed that there were multiple bullet holes in the front of the house near the area of the door. There was actually a bullet hole through the screen door, the frame. The inside door, obviously there would be a front entrance door and then there would be an exterior screen door. One of the things I noticed at that point is there was not a bullet hole in the front entrance door. And I noticed that there were blood stains on the door itself on the exterior portion. And having seen that, that led me to believe that the front door was most likely open when the bloodletting event had occurred. From there, I actually looked inside. I didn't go inside the residence at that point, but I did look inside.
Let me interrupt you real quick. Can you show the jury, where were you standing on the exhibit that's up? I think it's A544. Where were you standing when you did this initial look?
I was standing right here on the front porch.
Okay. And you didn't go into the residence at this time, you just kind of looked in?
At that particular time, no, I did not enter.
Okay. I'm going to show you, I'm going to put up on the screen what's been marked for identification purposes, States Exhibit A192.
Yes.
Okay. You had talked about some blood splatter on the door. Tell us what that is. First of all, what's blood splatter, blood spatter? Can you tell us the difference on some of those different ways that blood can get onto an item?
Blood spatter or a blood stain is basically a deposit of blood on a surface due to an external force applied. In short, what that would mean is something occurred that caused somebody to bleed, and the thing that caused them to bleed caused blood to be expelled from that area. And so at that point, if it's deposited on a surface, then you would have a spatter stain or a blood stain.
In State's Exhibit A192, can you see it over that you have in your hand? I know you can't see it on the screen above.
I would
Can you
like
see
to
it on that
also
over there?
adjust
Yes, I
Mr.
can.
Wagner's
Bear with me.
vest. It's
Okay,
very
you got it right there.
troublesome to me.
The exhibit you have in your hand there, is that the same exhibit that's up on the
And
screen?
yeah, it's driving me
Yes, it
nuts.
is.
Honestly,
where
his whole life
in
choices are
that
troublesome
picture,
to me, but
is
I'll
the
start
blood
with
that
the
you
one
recognize?
thing maybe I can fix.
Down along the lower portion, do I need to stand to
Yeah, if you could.
articulate that?
I'll bring you out there. I know it's kind of tight.
If you look in this area, you'll see stains here, here, here. There's multiple stains throughout.
Okay. And if you stay right there for a second, I'm going to put up on the screen what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit A193. Okay. And again, can you tell the jury what's depicted in that picture?
Once again, there are spatter stains deposited on the exterior surface of the door. And you can see those here. Those in specific have characteristics to them. These, the size and distribution, there's not many characteristics there.
I'm going to put State's Exhibit A194 up on the screen. And again, can you tell the jury what they're looking at there?
If you look here and you see these stains, and remember the ones I said had characteristics to them, and some that don't have many, you also see stains on the floor in these areas as well, out into here as well.
Okay. And what area is it, of the trailer is that?
That's near the front entrance door.
I'm going to keep you right there, if you would. I'm going to put up State's Exhibit A55.
I think, Amelia, that
Okay.
due
Can you
to
tell
the
the jury
judges,
what they're looking at there?
I don't want to
and then show them
interrupt you,
again on
Counselor,
the,
if that's rude. I think that the media is exercising extreme caution because of the admonition from the judge. I think that he sort of gave general instructions, and then that caused some crime scene pictures that I believe that it was specifically one of the babies that was found to be a picture of the baby covered, in blood. That was released by a media outlet. And so now they're being like overly cautious about what they show. So we don't know what all else is in that picture. You know what I'm saying? So if there is a body in the picture along with the blood spatter, they won't show it. Okay, here we go.
the diagram where that picture is taken from and what's depicted.
This is the front porch that I spoke of earlier. There is the screen door that I told you earlier that appeared to have a bullet hole in the corner of it near the jamb. And in relation to where that is, once again, it is right here in this area.
Okay. Was it your testimony that when you looked at that area, you noticed the screen door had bullet holes, but the front door did not? Is that correct?
Yes.
Give me State's Exhibit A155, if you could, please. Okay. If you could, tell the jury what they're looking at there and what area the house or residence that is.
This area, once again, this would be the, I believe that's the front porch area. And you can see the screen door in a closed position here. And then you begin to see multiple bullet holes in that area. Some of what you see here were not bullet holes. They were holes from maybe a previous handle or something of that nature. But we were able, based on its appearance, to tell that one of them appeared to be a bullet hole.
Okay. And you said you were able to look in to the general area of that living room. Can you give me State's Exhibit A183, please? Okay. Walk the jury through State's Exhibit A183. What are they looking at there? What are they seeing?
Let's start with this corner. You see plywood in this corner, and then you see something here that would be the front door. That would be the jamb of the front door. So this now tells you my general location when looking in and taking this photograph. From that general area, you will see what would be transfer stains here in blood, and they're in the form of maybe a drag. It appeared that the bloodletting event had occurred within the residence, and the individuals were drugged throughout the residence. Over here, you see another area where a body was turned and then drugged to the same area of the residence. Also, you see partial footwear impressions in blood in that area.
When you initially looked into that residence, again, was that all readily apparent to you? And does that truly and accurately depict the way that area looked from that door?
Yes, it did.
Okay, you can go ahead and have a seat.
And I think too, what makes this particularly heart-wrenching.
So at that
Hold
time,
on.
after you do that initial look into the
Should pause.
residence,
What makes this testimony particularly heart-wrenching at this moment is the fact that Chris Wagner or Chris Roden Sr.'s mom is sitting in the front row. So she's seeing all of this. They're talking about his residence, and it's heartbreaking and all to her, right? But this is her son.
did you immediately go in and start
Both of her sons.
analyzing that scene? Or
'Cause
did
Gary
you
was
back
there
out
too.
and was there more work to be done first?
When I first arrived, and obviously we had the briefing, and then I would have eventually went to the front door. Some of these photographs we've shown you are photographs that were taken later once we were inside. But earlier on, there was photographs that were taken from the front porch that would show these individual characteristics within the scene. And at that point, seeing what I just showed you there in the photograph, I felt that I needed to back out. We have access. We actually, at that time, we had 3D scanners, and they were, we only had a few. And so they were divided between the southern units and the northern units. And our unit had one, and we would kind of share that scanner. And so I felt that it very important to back out from that scene and be able to bring our 3D scanner in and to scan the interior and the exterior of the scene prior to us doing anything.
Take
How
a few.
sad is
take a few
that?
minutes to tell the
Isn't
jury
it?
about these 3D scanners.
That
What
like
is it
your
3D
grandma
scans?
has to
How does it
bury
work?
like
And what do you
both
use?
her
Yes.
sons, her
It's a
nephew, her
documentation tool,
grandkids,
and it's a
Yes.
measuring device.
It's
daughter-in-law.
heartbreaking.
It's
It's heartbreaking.
It's a
An
very
entire
complex piece
family.
of
They
equipment
wiped
that does
out
very
an
simple
entire
things.
family.
In short,
Yeah.
it will take
For what?
images of something. It will give you an accurate representation of something
For
by
control.
scanning millions
Yeah.
of points.
Crazy.
It
And
also
ruined
is a device that will give you
their
elevations
own
so that
lives and
you
their own
basically know
family's
where
lives
you are
and
in that
the
area.
child
If you've
that
ever
this was
seen
all about,
surveyors, modern
right?
surveyors,
Her
they
life.
basically use the same
Yep.
thing. And it
Forever.
also gives you
Forever.
measurements. So it takes measurements, elevations, and gives you an image.
Okay. And back on April 22nd, 2016, did you have actual physical possession? You personally have physical possession of your 3D scanner?
I did not know.
Okay. Did you have to call one of your partners in to come do the scan?
Yes, based on geographical location of where we lived, it was determined that it would be better if it was centralized. And so another agent was assigned that at that time. And so no, I did not have one.
Okay. With respect to the 3D scan of this scene, did you actually conduct, or were you the person who did the scans of this scene?
No, I did not.
Okay.
You don't want to see my
Was
little
there
friend I
a
have
little
with
bit of a
me.
wait time or delay
Yes.
while that other agent brought that
Aw.
3D scanner down with respect to processing?
He'll get as big as a dog.
Yes, there was a delay.
While you were waiting for that
Really?
other
In
agent
my
to
lip?
show up and do that scan, did
What's
you
his
do other
name?
work around the property?
At
His
some point, yes,
Well,
at some point we were notified that a
when we
search
got
warrant had been
him, he was
obtained.
a hatchling and he still had a
Once
little
we were
mark
notified
on his
that a
butt.
search
They
warrant
mark
had
them,
been obtained,
Okay.
and he had a little white circle on his butt, so I call him White Butt. He doesn't really have
Again,
any.
Aw.
somewhat
It's
of
just
a-
white
an
butt.
exterior
It's white
walkthrough,
butt. Huh?
Uh,
Aw.
When you
Yeah.
do a walkthrough, it's relatively
I like when you
short
dress them
at
up,
that
Kate. I'm
point,
not gonna
but
lie.
it's not the primary search.
I'm gonna do a
So we did a
fashion show
walkthrough
soon.
for
Oh, I can't
documentation
wait.
purposes, and we
Yeah, I'll
walked
make
I will
sure
be
I let you
the
know
exterior of
before I
the
do. I'm
property,
waiting for the
taking
Halloween
photographs
outfits
from
to
as
get
many
to the pet
angles and
store.
locations as
Okay.
possible.
You better.
Let's talk about that. When you roll up onto a scene like this, or you're called to a scene like this,
Roll up onto a scene.
you don't really know
I
too
love
much of
it.
what's going on or the background when you first get there. Is that correct?
That's true, yes.
Okay. And is it pretty much standard practice before you enter onto one of these properties to try to obtain a search warrant or some legal authority to actually be able to go on the property?
Yes, we attempt to obtain a search warrant. It's obviously it's not always a sure thing, but we attempt to obtain a search warrant. In a case like this, there are too many unknown factors not to make that attempt. In other words, we just didn't want to go onto this property and begin the process without having that authority.
Okay. And did you do that in this case?
Yes, we did.
Once you got the search warrant and you felt you could move around the property, is it pretty much standard to document the outside of a property or a scene like this?
It is for me. Yes, it is.
Okay. And walk the jury through how you do that and why that's important.
Well, what I want to do is paint a picture for the purposes of why we're here today. I want to be able to walk you through what originally was there, and not only what I would have seen, but what the camera will get in a photograph. I want you to be able to see that. It's also for evidence purposes. Things change over time, and we want to preserve that as best we can.
And when you document a scene, is there a standard way you do it? You go from outside in, you go from right to left. Is there some pattern that you use, or is it scene dependent?
It can depend upon the scene. It can dictate some things, but in my mind, I always had a process that I wanted to go through, and I wanted to back up to an area where I thought was relevant, and then I would always go a little further, and I would start my documentation there. In this particular case, it led me down into the woods, out onto the roadway, many different locations.
All right, I'm gonna hand you another stack of pictures. If you could, just take a look at those pictures. Take my sticky off of it. Again, check the back for me, make sure your signature's on there. Not your signature, your initials.
Yes, my initials and the date.
And do you recognize that stack of pictures that I just handed you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you recognize them as pictures that you took as part of your work in this case?
Yes.
And again, do those pictures truly and accurately depict the areas that you photographed that day?
Yes, sir, they do.
Can you give me State's Exhibit A1? All right, put up on the screen what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit A1. The A1 that is on the screen, again, do you recognize it as State's Exhibit A1 that you looked at?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell the jury what's depicted in this picture and why you take that type of picture?
It sounds trivial, but I want something to document where I was at that particular time and location. I said earlier that there would be this photograph, and I recall taking this photograph. My vehicle would have been just behind where I was standing when I took this photograph.
Okay. I'm gonna see if we can do this by keeping you seated, just so we don't have to get you up and down. You have your, can you point to where that picture would have been taken?
Yes, somewhere in this vicinity right here is where I was.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit A2. And again, State's Exhibit A2 that's up on the screen, does that truly and accurately depict the State's Exhibit A2 that you took as part of this, your work in this case?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. And can you tell the jury what's depicted in this picture and where on that overhead diagram you would have taken that picture from?
States Exhibit A2, obviously is a photograph. That photograph would be of this area crossing the driveway. And remember, the first exhibit was here and I was back here.
Kate's out here
So
living
now
her
it's
best
almost
Daenerys
picture of
Targaryen life
Coming around to the entrance of the.
Yes.
with her little baby dragons.
Does that truly and accurately depict the way that driveway
I have
looked
too many.
when you were out there doing your work
You
on
never
April
have too
22nd,
many.
2016?
It does,
They're like
yes.
potato chips.
Just-
You just can't have
look over
one.
that.
Right.
I'm going to put up what's been marked for identification purposes, States Exhibit A3. Can you tell us the States Exhibit A3, again, that's up on the image, truly and accurately depict the A3 that you reviewed as part of your work in this case?
Yes.
Okay. You tell us what we're looking at in that picture and where on the diagram that's taken.
The last two photographs I showed you on the diagram were of the front entrance and the mailbox. I'm in the same general location out on the roadway. I'm just working my way in almost a counterclockwise.
Oh,
manner.
thank you, Texas
And
Troy.
you're Beginning
Welcome.
to see the residents in the background. So I would be here and you would see the residents in the background.
Okay. The silver truck that's depicted right there in the driveway, did you see that in the picture?
Yes.
Can you show us where that truck is in the overhead diagram?
And I appreciated your gun lesson last night on Kate's panel because
Yeah.
I'm not, all I remember from opening statements is what they
Does
said.
that
the
truly and accurately
weapons
depict
were that
the
were
way
used.
that
I
area
cannot
looked on
identify
April
them
22nd, 2016?
Yes, it does.
by.
It was his
I'm
first
gonna
time
show
on
you what's been
panel
marked
too.
for
I felt special.
Identification purposes, States
Aw.
Exhibit A5.
I believe this is Chris's house. Yeah. He said that was
Yes.
at the mailbox.
Again,
Yes.
can you tell the jury what we're looking at there? And again, is that the A5 that you reviewed as part of your work in this case?
Yes, it is. It represents a photograph that I took on that day. What you're seeing here is I'm now moving around this area a little more. One of the things that you'll notice throughout the photographs is they will always overlap. There will be something in one photograph.
They sure had a lot of cars on the property.
Yes.
And that's for purposes of being able to orient those as to where
What
you
if you
work.
like
It's
towed
not always possible to
cars
do
and
that when you get into smaller items, but predominantly we try to overlap.
Okay,
those
there was
photographs.
something
So as you
about
can see,
cars, but
the
please
truck
don't get
there
me to
and
lying
see the
because I
truck in the
can't quite
photograph, that
remember
will
what the
give you
deal
location I'm standing.
was.
Can you give me States Exhibit A6?
It almost looked like a tow yard. Like there's
Again,
just
same
cars
thing.
everywhere.
Can you tell us what we're
I
looking
know
at there
that
and where on the board that
Kenneth,
picture was
hold on, let
taken
me turn
from?
this down just a little bit. I know
would
that
now be over in this
Kenneth
area,
wrote in
Again, working in a
and
counterclockwise
Donald
manner. And
Stone.
if you look in the
I think they
in the
like
corner of the photograph, again, you'll
flipped
see that
cars.
Let
I
me
think
ask you
that's
a-
what the deal is. I think
Gotcha.
that's why there was a ton of vehicles.
Gotcha.
You were
Because I
working
remember Kenneth,
this
I mean,
scene right here,
Donald
which is
saying that he
47-7.
went
Did
to
you have other
auctions
agents
with
down
Kenneth. That was the
working this
last
scene
time
as
he
well?
sort of hung out with him.
there
was
were
at an
other agents in that vicinity working, yes.
auction.
I did not
So they
travel
went to
there
car
so much at
auctions and
time,
flipped them. Might make
but yes,
sense.
they were
Mhm.
in this location.
So
And
they had a pretty decent
again, where
business.
were
They
you
had a
taking-
construction
where did you take that
business
picture from?
and
Mm-hmm.
flip
This
cars.
general area over here.
Okay. So between
And at some
Between
point,
the
I want to go over
building
some
you
of the
did, 40
testimony from
77,
yesterday because it
and that
was
location,
pertinent to
again,
this grow operation.
is there a garage depicted
So I
in
wanna talk
the
about that
semi-trailer
at some
depicted? Can
point,
you
but
see
I-
those items as well?
Staying
Yes, I can.
on the live, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for
We've
identification
not had
purposes.
hardly
Welcome back
any
up. Does that truly and
witnesses
accurately depict the way that area
opt
looked
in,
on that day?
so.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. States Exhibit A7.
Plus, I
Again,
think
same
that
thing. Walk us through what we're seeing there and where on the diagram that picture was taken.
hearing
I'm basically now over in this area.
me talk
and
about
I'm
how,
shooting
like,
back in that direction
there's
with my
4
camera.
crime scenes and, you
and
know,
you
all
can
that.
very
This gives you
faintly
a really,
see,
truly, this is what
the
he saw when he was
rear
on
end
scene. You
portion,
know
the
what I mean?
bed
This
of
is
that
how it was
truck in
that day.
photograph.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Brings that
important, the
orientation.
magnitude of what this family did
Yep.
to this other family.
Repeat, you said once again, we can use that to orient. She didn't pick you up. Court reporter didn't pick you
They
up.
bought
we can
cars at
orient where
auction,
we were
refurbished,
based
and
on
resold them.
that vehicle
Gotcha.
and
Thanks,
its
Corky.
location.
Thank you, Corky.
What exhibit is that? Do you have that?
7. A7.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit A8. Again, tell us what that is and where on the diagram that picture was taken.
Exhibit A8, once again, is a photograph. And now I'm down in this area. So I started here, I'm working my way around here. You can no longer see the truck, but in the last couple of photographs, you were able to see the container, the truck container. And now you can orient yourself as to where I am by the container being in the background.
Get your hands on. I'm going to try to do something here real quick. See if we can.
Also, I'd like to take an opportunity to compliment him on his the way that he takes pictures, where he has something
That
from the
truly
last
accurately depict
photograph.
the way that area looked on that
Because
day.
when I go
Yes,
look
it
at the
does.
West Memphis 3
I'm going to show you what's
photographs
been
all the
marked for
time,
identification
I
purposes.
can
State's
never.
Exhibit
It takes me forever to orient
A9?
myself what they're trying to show in the
Yes.
picture. It's
Okay.
a whole mess.
Can you tell us again what we're looking at there and where that picture's taken from?
I'm now over in this location of the property. There was a small roadway down and we followed along that roadway and we looked in that area for things such as footwear, any kind of thing that we thought could be considered as evidence. And I'm taking a photograph back toward the house. In that photograph, kind of entwined in the trees, you can see the rear portion of that container, the white container with the orange stripe.
Truly and accurately depict the way that area looked on that day?
Yes, sir, it does.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. State's Exhibit A10.
Now moving around this area, if you look at the photograph in the central portion of the photograph, you can see the residence that was where the crime scene was, where our victims were, and I'm down over the hill, basically on that little roadway.
I'm going to skip to State's Exhibit A12. All right, again, I've got State's Exhibit A12 up on the screen. Can you tell us where that picture is taken from and what we're looking at there?
Yes, this photograph is taken. It's of the residence, the Roden residence earlier that we saw, the mailbox. And I'm almost directly behind that residence down in the wooded area.
State's Exhibit A13.
It's another photograph, still on that basic roadway, and I'm traveling in a clockwise manner, and you can see in the center of the photograph there, you can see the residence as well.
State's Exhibit A14.
Still traveling in the same direction. My focus is on the residence and anything in between the residence and where I'm standing, and you can faintly see the roof of the residence from the photograph.
Were you able to look at, before we go to the next one, were you able to look at those pens? Did you examine those pens or what was in those pens? Did you look at that at all?
Those, I believe, were for chickens were housed in those.
State's Exhibit A15. Again, can you show us on the diagram where you're taking that picture from and where you're pointing back to?
I'm now down in this area, photographing back toward the residence.
Chickens make me nervous.
State's Exhibit A16.
Actually, all birds make me nervous, but chickens and ducks make me the most nervous.
Where are we at
Just a little
there? And what are you picturing?
Getting to know Jen Lou. Fact for
Down
you.
over in that area.
I
you can
love
see,
birds. I
some
watch
of the
this
containers,
cockatoo on YouTube like
vehicles,
every
and
day.
a lot of the
and I love
the buildings and
I
storage
can
areas.
watch them on like TV, you know,
And at
what
some
I mean?
point
But I am
later, were you
scared
able
of
to
them
go
in
and actually
person.
process or look at some of those?
I'm scared of
buildings?
geese because
Yes.
they're mean.
Well, when I
State's
was growing up,
Exhibit-
my grandmother had ducks, and I don't
What
know,
was
they
that
were
then?
got
Should it be
guard
15 or
ducks,
16?
but they were extra
Can we go
messed
State's
up
Exhibit
because
A17?
they would the female duck would lay eggs and then
Can you tell
not
us what we're looking at
remember
there and
where
where
she
that
had laid
picture
them,
was taken
so
from?
Yes, I'm still
they never actually
down
hatched.
in that
But
portion of the
because she couldn't
property,
remember where she
shooting,
laid them,
photography back
all
toward
of the yard was a
residence,
potential
which,
nest.
location of
And
the
so
Oh,
we would,
man.
we
And,
used to send my
once again, I'm
cousin
trying to
Rudy back
capture,
there because
as
for whatever
much
reason, he
and
used to wear
preserve in a
shorts and
photograph
cowboy
as I
boots
can.
all the time. And so those are,
State's Exhibit
he was like the distraction for the
A18?
ducks. So we'd send
Yes.
Rudy back there
Can you
Now-
tell
and he
us
would lure the ducks away
we're
because
at
they
and
would
what we're
chase
looking
him
at?
and then we'd
Yeah,
go
now
in the
moving,
backyard. Poor, my poor
toward
cousin
the
Rudy.
residence.
Oh Lord.
Still back down
Yeah,
there.
I like parrots. Like I like
You see
watching. I
outbuildings
feel like they're
versus,
just so
Yes.
smart and they
vehicles.
crack me up. I watched this one named Buster the
Nothing
Cockatoo
really,
on YouTube. I promise you, he
remarkable
has
in the
more
photograph
personality
other
than
than
most
for document.
humans, and I love
Yes.
watching it.
Now I will
State's
say the,
Exhibit
the
A19?
parrots and the macaws,
A19 again.
those
I'm in
and
that
the
general
cockatiels,
area.
those
Now I'm
three
beginning
birds I'm
to,
not actually
pan
scared
out
of. I had a
in
neighbor
that
that had
area
an
and try to
African
take
gray parrot,
photographs
and
from
I
all
loved
angles
that
of
bird. He was not
the
scary
thing. Oh,
to
yeah.
me at all. But
State's
yeah.
Exhibit A20.
I could see why the ducks would freak
moving
you
up
out,
a
though.
little
I got
Yeah.
chased by many of them.
I got some leftover scars from childhood
Obviously,
that are
there's a lot of equipment
bird
there and
related.
vehicles there.
I had
Nothing
a
remarkable at the time.
peach-faced lovebird when I was little,
State's Exhibit A21.
and his
You're
name was
beginning to
Pico. And if you
see
speak
me
Spanish, you know
this
what it
area
means.
now,
It's not
looking back toward that
a good
large
word to be calling
barn
a
that
bird.
was
First
adjacent
of
to
all,
the residence.
it's
And
means dick.
did you go into that barn? Do you
And
remember
my
what
dad
was in
thought
that
it
barn?
was funny
At
for
some
me to
point,
be
I
like
did go
2 years
into
old
the barn.
and
There
be
were
asked what the
some
bird's
animals in
name
there.
was,
I
and then
believe
be
there may
cussing
have
in
been some
Spanish. It
dogs
made
in
my
there.
nana nuts.
Some very large
but
livestock in that area.
He used to
as well.
get out of his cage and like dive
State's
bomb
Exhibit
you. So I'm,
A22.
that was a little nerve
It's
wracking.
a picture, basically, for documentation purposes of the large outbuilding or old barn there next to the residence.
State's Exhibit A23.
It's just another angle of the last photograph. I'm moving up
My
toward
nana had parakeets,
what would be Union Hill Road.
and I
at that
loved
point.
those.
And again, is
birds.
this part
They
of
I had a
sang.
parakeet that
wide,
used to
broad
talk.
sweep
He used
around
to
the
say,
property?
pretty girl, pretty
Yes, it
girl.
is.
Like,
Aw.
State's
and
Exhibit
budgies
A25.
don't usually talk much, but
No.
she went to town. She
Now
would
over
say, pretty girl, and then
this
she would
area,
spin and do all
that
kinds of cute little
direction.
things and kiss herself in the mirror.
Aw.
You can
See, I can't have
that
a
I've come full
bird
circle,
that
and you can
talks
actually see
because
in the center of the
they say they're like
photograph, the truck
toddlers.
that
They're
I
like little
referenced
children, and they
in the
pick
photographs.
up words.
And
You
State's
can
Exhibit
work with them to say a word,
A26.
and they won't say it, but they
Same
will say
basic
the words you don't
location,
want
I've
them
just
to
turned
say. And
another angle.
I
to
just
get a
know how my
photograph to
mouth
the side of the
is,
building.
and that bird would be a sailor.
State's Exhibit, I'm going to skip to, was A27, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, there's a
I'm
lot
moving
of-
again toward Union Hill Road.
Well, because I watch the one, I get a lot
I'm
of
beginning to see barricade
parrot
tape
feeds in
now.
my TikTok and stuff,
So
and a few of
that
them
would
definitely
let us understand how far beyond this thing that we actually did
hurts
go
a
for
lot.
documentation
Uh,
purposes.
so Nonstop Mom,
Skip
he
A29.
didn't meet them on the night they were unalived, but he definitely met
This
them.
area, once
he
again, I'm
shared a
moving out
picture
toward,
of
Union Hill
himself
Road,
with
and,
Hannah, and it's definitely her. He shares it on his YouTube
and you
channel.
can
Yeah.
faintly
It's
see,
definitely her. I saw the
barricade
picture.
tape
Yeah.
around the actual residence.
So-
in the center of the photograph near the
He definitely met them, but he said in a later video like he wasn't sure of the exact date, but he knew it was soon
just
after that he
continuing
seen
now
that they were
down
killed, but
Union
it wasn't
Road,
like
and
the day before. It
trying
was like
to
a month.
make full
and a
circle
half.
Yeah, like he wasn't.
approaching what would be the
Could he?
location where my
It wasn't
vehicle
a.
would have been parked.
He might have been
Do me a
there
favor, can
that
you
night
show
too. You know what I mean?
From this
Or in the
picture
early
on that
morning
overhead diagram,
hours.
are you able to pick up some of those
Yeah,
vehicles
he
again?
was
Where they were
overstruck. Like I think he was just
This line of vehicles here,
trying to
I would have
exaggerate
been
the
in that
story
area.
to like overstress. Like,
A32.
what if something happened when I was
Once
there, you know?
again,
Yes,
it's a
that's the
different angle,
official.
moving,
That's the
toward my
workaround.
vehicle
Texas
or the
Troy
location where the
unaliving
mailbox will be.
oneself,
Let me ask you real
unaliving
quick.
another.
Yeah, it's
Actually, give me
it's the go around and not say words on YouTube.
Right.
A33. Click back to A34.
It's interesting because whenever I try to use that term
State's Exhibit
in a chat,
A32.
my phone's like, "Bitch, what are you
Point.
doing?" It's always trying to correct it, and I'm like, "Just leave it alone.
Far right.
This is how it has to be."
Yeah.
Phone. Like yesterday, it
Indicate
changed trial to
right.
trail for no reason, even though
That silver truck
I've
there.
been talking about it. I've
Was
been
that the
typing the
truck
word
that,
trial more
again,
than anything
you
lately.
picked it
Yeah, mine does that too. Actually, I was just trying to tell my friend that one of my lizards is a snuggler, and it said
Exhibit
smuggler like 3 times before I was
Yeah.
actually able to fix it. And then I sent smuggler
Basically,
like
it's
3
same
times, and I'm like,
location, but now
no.
just to a different
Yes.
angle.
I'm
And
telling
it's still
you,
traveling.
the
in
phones
the
are
direction of the
instigators.
mailbox.
Yes.
We're gonna move
And I
to
say, what
exhibit
the duck a lot
A54.
too.
Yes. They don't, Texas Troy, but here's the deal. True crime, just generally speaking, on
After you
YouTube is
do
problematic. You constantly
initial
have to
broad sweep
appeal your
of the
lives
property,
or
as
your
part of your work with that
videos
scene,
with a
do you
human
then go
review
around and do a
because they will
close-up
automatically
documentation
make it limited
of
ads,
the
and
trailer?
it's easier if you use the workarounds.
Yes, I do.
And what's the purpose of that?
Because
If you recall
YouTube
earlier, I
also
talked
has
about,
the
we will take an overall general photograph.
AI too
and
that
we
they
will
use
try to
again
overlap
that they
those
use.
photographs so that we
So
could put those
just
together
easier.
into a chain, and you would see one continuous picture. Now that we move in, we're
This is
looking
how
for
I know
finer
I've
detail,
matured, because
but we're
young Jen
we're
would have been
unable
like,
to
F this noise, I'm going to say
overlap
what I
as
want.
much
But
because now
older
we're
Jen
focusing
is
on
like,
something
okay, I'll play the
closer.
game.
But you can use the first photographs as a reference to where we were
I'm all
when we
grown.
take the next line of photographs. So if you couldn't see this orange mower in relation to where it was with the truck now, but prior to that, you would be able to see that because it's a wider angle photograph.
So the state's exhibit A54 that you have there on the screen, you pointed out an orange mower. When you were at that property that day, did you find or did you notice an orange bush hog or mower in front of that property?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and again, is that depicted in that picture?
Yes, it is.
Can you show the jury on the diagram or the overhead picture where that is located?
You can actually see the mower right in this area here in front of the residence.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit A56.
Yes. Now I'm still going in a somewhat of a counterclockwise direction. If you would reference the last photograph, you would see the corner of the residence and the satellite dish. You can again see that as well as the front door.
Is this
State's
Chris's
Exhibit
trailer?
A57.
Again, this would be a photograph
just
of the
let me
end of
see.
the residence as I'm traveling clockwise.
And again, is that the condition you found it in that day?
Absolutely, yes.
And did you find, does it appear that that window at the far end of that trailer was open?
Yes.
State's Exhibit
Give me just a
A58.
second. I got to orient myself.
Where you at there?
Once again, Exhibit A58 is a photograph that I've taken of the corner of the residence. When we turn a corner on the residence, we try to get both sides of the residence so that when we look back at it later, we'll be able to determine an orientation.
It's
State's
either
Exhibit
Chris's
A59.
or Frankie's.
Yeah.
Now directly behind the residence.
Wasn't sure.
Me either. I'm not. I'm now. I'm like overly
860?
cautious about saying the
I
wrong
panned
thing
to
because
my
it's so.
right just a little bit, still standing behind the residence because I wanted to pick up the corner of the residence in relation to the barn.
A61.
This photograph, I've moved in closer to the rear of the residence.
I'm going to skip to A63.
This is a photograph, A63. One of the things I try to do is document the condition of doors and windows in a residence.
When the president of Ireland,
State's Exhibit A65.
Is that you or me? Oh no, it's you.
It's me. It's my. I went to go click something and
65,
my
again, I'm
YouTube
at the,
scrolled and it just started
corner
playing
of the
shorts out of
residence.
nowhere. Sorry.
Oh,
Working my way
no,
around in a
I don't care about that
counterclockwise
kind of
direction.
stuff. Look, I hollered the other day. Yesterday it was. I thought that I had my
A67.
microphone muted and I was outside and I was telling my dog it's time to come in. So here
Well,
I
now at
am.
the
Think I'm
the
muted,
other end
talking
of the
about, come on,
residence,
Bubs, let's go
earlier we seen a
inside.
photograph where the window was open. I've now traveled to
The kind of
the end
professionalism
that.
you can expect here at the
This would
ward.
be the
Yeah.
exterior of the.
I don't know what happened. I just like hit my mouse and all of a sudden things started
A68.
playing.
Yes. See, autoplay is a great
I'm
thing
moving
for
around to the
nighttime when
front
you're
of the
watching
residence
YouTube to
now,
go to sleep, right? So if you
and
fall
Yeah.
asleep, something
you can
else
see
will
the
play.
porch in the background.
But when you're
So
trying to
I don't know where
actually
we are
do
in the
something, not so
And finally,
much.
A69.
Yep. Exactly. I think I just like hovered over it and it just
69.
That's
started
all you
going.
have.
It
That's
was
the
like,
newest
Circle,
update,
moved all the way
is the
around
hover.
residence, back to the front.
I didn't even know that
At
happened.
some point, as you
Yeah.
And then I
went
kept
around
trying
outside of
to
that
move it so it would
property,
shut up, but then I kept pulling it back and it just
Yes.
kept going. Boop, 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 boop,
Yep.
boop,
did
boop,
you begin to
Yep.
notice
It's
various pieces of
I'm
evidence
telling
that you
you.
may want to collect?
Yes,
The
I did.
YouTube's is an instigator on many levels.
It is.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes as states exhibits A94, A95, and A96.
Texas Troy, it's literally where they were. It wasn't far from the border to Kentucky at all. It was actually where Piketon is. It's super close. I mean,
A94 for me.
all right, let's see. Piketon.
The image that's depicted on the screen there, states exhibit
2, 3.
A94. Again, is that the same A94 that you have in your hand?
Texas.
It's like
Yes,
5
it is.
towns away from the
And could you
border.
tell the jury,
Yes,
again,
Texas
on
Troy,
the
just so
diagram,
you know.
where is this picture depicting and what are you trying to depict there?
Your girl
Probably like
10
a half
Blue
hour.
doesn't
maybe
know
more.
anything about geography. Okay,
You'll see
so I
the,
went
uh,
ahead and
the
dropped
lower
my
deck,
PayPal and
the
Cash App link
residence.
so people can.
And in the
y'all wanna
photograph,
throw
you
in on
can
a
now
map
see the corner of
for
the
your
mower
girl,
deck
so I
in
can
the front
know
of the
where things
residence
are.
in relation to where this item number 1 would have been located.
Terrible at geography.
I would say it's probably like
What's depicted
maybe
in
like
exhibit
40.
A95?
Like from the looks of it,
Basically
I
the
could
same
be
thing
totally
we had
wrong,
after we moved
but
in.
like
As I said
a
earlier,
half hour,
take a
45
wide-angle
minutes from the
photograph so that
border.
you can orient
I
that.
could be totally off.
If I
there,
just showed
but-
you 95, you wouldn't know where it was located on the property.
maybe a little
Basically,
longer,
here
like
you do,
let me
and it's a photograph of what appeared to be a Mountain Dew can.
maybe like an
And
hour.
states exhibit
An
A96.
hour from the
At
border of
96 is
Kentucky.
a close-up.
And then it's also really close to the West Virginia border too.
Did you collect states exhibit, or did you
Let me
collect
tell you
Mountain
about
Dew
where
cans depicted in that
my
picture?
Yes, I did.
no, I don't have
I'm
a
gonna show you what's
PO
been marked
box
for
nonstop,
identification
Mom.
purposes.
Let me tell
as
you
states
where my
exhibit
geography,
486.
what I know about geography. First of all, I know that from my part of Florida, which is on the west coast by the
Do
Gulf,
you recognize
to the east
that
coast
item?
of
Yes, I
Florida
do.
is
Can you
roughly
tell the
a
jury
3-hour drive.
What is states exhibit
Because
486?
Florida is a peninsula and
It's
it is much
packaged in a
longer
brown
than it
paper
is
bag.
wide. Conversely, where I'm
Has
from,
evidence tape on
Texas,
it.
North
It
Texas,
has
I grew
my
up in
original
Arlington.
initials on
It
I did
takes
collect and seal this.
it's a 16-hour drive from where I grew up in Arlington to where I was born in Tucson, Arizona. And 12, almost 13 hours of that is just getting out of Texas.
Yeah.
Once you're out of that part of
Do I need gloved
the state
hands
is
or should I not?
Yeah, go ahead.
big. It's harder to go west, get out of Texas going west than it is to go out of Texas going east from where I grew up. Yes, Texas. If you're still
I'm gonna
there,
find-
Texas Troy, do me a solid and
A little small for
eat
my hands.
Whataburger for me and describe it in detail. I want to live vicariously through you. We don't have Whataburger in my part of Florida.
I'm gonna find out. Hold on, I'm trying to find directions to see how long it would take.
See, this is the kind of details you will not get at the ward, but you will get over on Kate Does Crime. Which is why I think collabing
I
is a
just
good
be looking
idea.
at some things, but it's like I need to know now because.
Oh, you're in
Once
San
again,
Antonio?
brown
My
paper
brother-in-law's
bag.
from there.
Appears to be the original bag.
I miss Texas.
The day
Not
that
gonna
we
lie,
collected
but
this,
I do like
my initials
Florida.
on it.
So wow, I was about right. It's about 30 minutes from Piketon to the border of Kentucky.
Tell the
Look
jury
at
when
you,
you collect
Kate,
a piece
knowing
of
things.
evidence from a scene.
I knew it. I
How do
just
you
knew
go
it.
about collecting it?
I felt it. I looked how long, how many pounds away, and it
What
just
do you
looked like a half-hour drive to me, and I was on point.
Good job.
I should go back.
So that's really close to
I don't
Kentucky.
mind by indicating how we were dressed
Thank
at
you,
that time.
Texas Troy. I
When
miss
we processed this
Whataburger
scene,
and I miss Dairy
we were
Queen
dressed in
steak
full
finger
Tyvek
baskets because
suits.
most of the
Tyvek
Dairy Queens
would
around here are like the
help
Orange
keep us from
Julius ones and they don't have
contaminating the
food.
scene. We were also,
Yeah, me and
arrested
Texas
at Pike
were about to fight
for
last
torn
night
shoes
because
over
he's a
the
Cowboys
material
fan
used,
and I'm an Eagles
so
fan.
that
Well,
So
I hate to
we
break it to you.
would
I'm a
not
Cowboys fan for life,
contaminate
and
Oh,
facilities.
yeah,
We would
that's
also
problematic
have
in that area.
gloves.
We're just going to have to agree to
For
disagree on that.
purposes here
I
today,
know.
I
And
don't
now
know
I
if
I'm
know.
I'll be
here
able to
in
change my gloves out
Florida
after every
with
piece
the
of evidence.
Bucks and
But when it
the
would come to a
Buccaneers,
critical
and
piece of evidence, if I collected this piece of evidence at the scene,
Brady
after I collected
is the
it and
quarterback,
packaged it, those gloves
obviously,
would come off. They would
Yeah.
be gone,
and he's another
and
sworn
before I got
enemy.
another piece of evidence, I would
Right.
have to.
Well, you know what? I will
It's also
say
looking at,
I've
DNA
Brady
and
has
cross-
grown on me since he's gone to the Bucks. Like
For purposes
it's
today,
like
I
a
may
new
not
side
be
of
able to do
Brady
that
has come
today.
out that nobody's seen because he was so
Our
uptight
procedure
on the
would be to
Patriots.
photograph it,
Yeah.
Like if you
and
follow him on
document it,
TikTok, he's actually
document
kind
it
of
in
funny.
a
I
program that has
hated
a
him
time pad.
on the
From
Patriots,
there,
but he's starting to
we
grow on
would
me a little
make
bit.
a
I'll give him
label,
It is
and
against
we
my
would actually
entire
package the
being,
evidence.
like
When
at
I
a
process
cellular
crime
level,
scenes,
like
I
in my
did things a little
DNA. I
different from
cannot
other agents.
I
Everybody
know. I
has
hate
come
to admit it
around
myself,
to
but
liking Brady. I just can't
collected,
do it.
documented, and packaged every piece of
actually, I
evidence
didn't
as
check
it
my
came.
fantasy football last night, and I did pretty well.
Good
And then
job.
once it's
Yes.
packaged and collected,
That's
what do
right.
you
Go
do with it from
Cowboys.
there?
That would depend on the circumstance and the situation.
Every
In
year,
this
I hope.
particular,
Every season.
Case, it would be secured in one of our vehicles, one of our crime scene vehicles, and could go through various
The
stages.
accent. Do I have an accent,
I
I
Max?
think
Is
they're
that what you're
talking
saying?
about
You talked about the label.
Oh, the
that
accent.
you
on
give
The,
the
uh,
witness box.
Is
The
each
witness
item
box.
you
Their
collected
southern
given a unique
sound. Yeah.
item number, or a
Vehicles
unique
is
identification
definitely
piece, so
the
you just have to
southern
keep track of it through the
pronunciation of
process?
vehicles.
Yes, it is. This would be the original
Vehicles.
label.
It's vehicle,
and we
but in
update that
but in the
attached to
South,
the
it's
package.
vehicles.
In
We say
the
water
item number that
instead
you
of
give us,
water.
does that typically correspond to what's known as a
Water.
photo placard?
Yes, it is.
My mother-in-law says
And in
Warsh,
the exhibit that we
and
still
she's
have
straight
up on the
Texan,
screen
born,
is
bred,
the
and
photo
raised.
placard for this item, obviously.
And we call
Picture.
creeks
Okay.
the crick.
Is that what item number for your purposes was that
We're
item?
Creek here.
Yes, it was.
Texas is
Okay.
Texas
number
is
one.
Creek.
Yes, item number
Not
one. And you also saw a placard in the
Sorry about the
photograph
flight
that had a
pattern
number
over my
one,
home.
so
Let me
those two would
mute.
correspond.
Now, when you collect a piece of evidence from a scene, ultimately, where does it end up?
It can end up either at our facility, storage facility in London. It could go to an agency, or it could be submitted directly to the laboratory for analysis.
And if you're going to submit something to the laboratory for analysis, how does that work? How do you make that request? How do you do that?
We fill out a submission sheet, and then we would take the item to the laboratory, and it would be accepted by the laboratory. They would then give it their lab number, and eventually, hopefully it would make it to the lab worker, and they would work that piece of evidence.
And ultimately, in this case,
Right.
was some of the evidence
Texas
that you
Troy.
collected at the scene submitted to the lab for DNA testing?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I believe the parties have a stipulation with respect to State's Exhibit 486.
Oh,
All right, what is that stipulation?
The stipulation with respect to State's Exhibit 486 would be
Florida
that the
is like that
DNA
too.
on
Florida
this
is like the
exhibit,
most
which is
not
scene
southern state,
number
even
one,
though it's the most southern state.
the Mountain Dew can collected from in front
okay.
of 4077
So the way that I understand
Union
it
Hill Road
is the
contains Gary Logan's
panhandle
DNA.
of Florida is really considered, that's like southern, right?
All right,
Because
so
it borders
exhibit,
Alabama.
The exhibit
but
number.
Yeah.
The
was
rest of Florida, not
486,
so much. Because when somebody, I can't
collected
even
at
remember who it
scene
was, said
one.
that Florida, it's
And
the South. I
stipulation
was like,
is that the item
is it?
depicted there, that exhibit, which
But,
is
you
that
know.
Mountain Dew can,
Correct.
Lord Jesus.
contains Gary Rogan's DNA. Correct.
I think it's because a lot of people from the north retire down there. So,
Yes, yes.
you know, there's the absence of the accent.
But there are parts of Florida that do have a twang.
Yeah.
And I don't hear a twang when I talk, but when I talk to my family in Arizona, they all swear that I have the twangiest twang ever, and I don't hear it. Even when sometimes I'm like forced to listen, I can't stand to listen to myself back. But there are times like when I'm making a video, obviously you have to, and I can't stand it, and I don't ever hear my twang. But yeah. I miss Texas so much. Y'all have no idea. But I don't miss like the North Texas weather. I'm living my best weather life here in the Floridas. Although we have to sometimes worry about hurricanes and stuff like that. But living in Texas, I had to worry about like tornadoes and hail and stuff. So I think weather is just what it is. Weather is weather, and sometimes you got to be paying attention. That's all.
Yeah.
And we've had a quiet, thank
Yeah.
goodness. I need to knock on some wood. Hurricane season this year, and I'm grateful for it. Yeah,
I don't.
Tony.
I would love to live down. Well, is there a lot of bugs down there? How's the bugs in Florida?
Ridiculous. Like, so where I am, I'm on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
And I've never seen this wide variety of bugs. Like, I thought Texas had bugs, right, that didn't play, but no, Florida is worse. And they have like a ton, and they're big. Even the dragonflies here are like
Huge.
huge. And the first time I saw a Florida dragonfly, I was like, oh, oh my. Like it's, it's
And the stipulation, which you've heard here, let me just
it's
sort
like
of
some
repeat this.
some X-Men
The
been
DNA
exposed to
on scene
radiation,
one
mutant
photo,
level
Godzilla.
bugs. Yes.
exhibit number
That's why I don't be messing with
486,
the
trial
frogs
exhibit
here,
number
because they look like little
486,
baby
is given
Godzillas.
a
You
a
never
Yeah.
unit.
know.
These other numbers
Oh,
also
my kid would love that.
the
He
XY
loves
and
catching
CSI number
frogs.
40. But the exhibit number for trial purposes,
We have
exhibit
two,
number
like we have tree
486,
frogs here,
which is a
and then we
Mountain
have
Dew
like the
can
toads and
found in front of Chris
He
Senior's
wants to
trailer
move down there
in
because he likes to
Gary
catch the
Road in
lizards,
DNA
and
stipulation.
he wants to
We
have
are
his own
accept
little
that as
reptile
established
zoo.
by evidence, all right?
okay, so the pictures they were showing in the trailer is Chris's trailer, Chris Senior's trailer.
Okay.
That's what they were talking about.
Now you may continue your.
Thank you, Don.
They do. Texas. They are Texas Road. They are a minor league baseball team.
Mr. Trump, can you give me
They're
State's
beautiful
Exhibit
though.
A97? In addition to that Mountain Dew can, did you find a couple other items out front of 4077 Union Hill Road?
Yes, sir.
We have up on the screen what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit A97. Can you tell the jury what's depicted in that picture and where in the scene that is?
Exhibit A97 would be item number 2. You see a number 2 placard. You really can't see the actual evidence, but the general purpose is to see the placard so it can be orientated as to where it is. And once again, we would do follow-up photography.
Okay. In addition to that placard number 2, is there another placard that's identifiable that you can see in that picture?
Yes, you can faintly see what's going to be item number 3. It's over closer to the actual mobile home itself.
Okay. And
See it
again,
faintly just above the crime scene tape.
are those the locations you found those 2 items in the day that you collected them?
Yes, they are.
Can you give me State's Exhibit A98?
Now, just briefly here, let me turn this down just a
Can
little
you tell
bit.
the jury?
The reason they're
seeing
going
in
over
State
this stuff
Exhibit
in such
A98?
Once again, you see my
detail
placard number 2
is
placard,
because
and you see a cigarette butt or a partial.
there's
As part of your work in this case, did you
so the
collect
defense
that
is claiming
cigarette butt?
that there
Yes,
is
sir, I did.
no
Can you tell the
physical
jury
evidence
how you collected
that
it, what process
ties
you used
George
to
Wagner
package
the
it, what you
Fourth
did with it when you
to
got it?
any of the crime scenes.
Yes, collecting it once
And
again,
there's
it would be
also,
in its own container, which would be this
so
yellow
that's
envelope.
important.
This
and
appears to be the original envelope. It has
that
the
they lay the
original,
foundation for what was
label that I
collected, the
put on
way
the
that it
front.
was
It also
collected,
has
that
my
all the
initials.
I's were dotted, all of the T's were crossed.
At
Because
that point, it would have been
it's going to come
collected.
into play. I don't
We
know if
use
he's going to
small
testify to it,
disposable
but when it
tweezers.
comes
They were
to
little
the shoe
plastic, blue tweezers.
impressions that
carry 'em
were
by the
left in
bags,
blood, it's
and
going to be
that would be
important
used to
that
collect this, place it in the
they
envelope,
have
or
established that everything was collected accurately
And
and
that has an
you know,
evidence sticker,
there's
or
no
exhibit sticker on it, States Exhibit 487, is that correct?
contamination.
Mr. John, can you give me States Exhibit 99? States Exhibit A99 is up on the screen. Can you tell us what's depicted in that exhibit, please?
Yes, once again, this would be a photograph. You can see here a placard with a number 3 on it that we referenced in the last photograph, and an additional one, which is number 4. These were items of potential evidence as well.
Can you show me States Exhibit 101, please? All right, we have States Exhibit A101 up on the screen. Can you tell the jury what that is?
Yes, once again, it's item number 3. According to my placard, that would have been my evidence item number 3, and it's another partial cigarette butt.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes. The States Exhibit 400, A488. States Exhibit A488, can you tell us what that is, please?
Yes, I have a yellow envelope. Once again, it has my original label that I would have printed. On the back is my original initials and the tape. One packaged inside of that obviously would be the item number 3, which would be the partial cigarette butt.
I have to say
I'm going to
that
show you
this
what's
was
been
some
marked for identification
meticulous
purposes.
crime
States
scene
Exhibit
evidence
A102 on
collecting
the
and
screen.
documenting. I have to give props
A102
to
again,
that.
it's a photograph that I've taken 2 photographs ago. We
I love
actually
the
saw this
cases
number
where they do
4,
their job well.
and the
Yes, me
photograph was
too.
taken. So now you have an orientation as to where number 4
And
is in relation to number 3.
I'm thinking that
You can't quite see the evidence, but we will
A
get there.
is for Chris
States Exhibit
Senior's
A103.
trailer and anything related to his
States
crime
Exhibit
scene and
A103.
Gary's crime scene, and then B will
It's
be, you know,
my
that's
item
how they're
number
going to do
4.
it.
You can see a partial
Yeah.
cigarette butt. If you look on the grass, you can actually see ashes.
But if you're listening to the
that
numbers,
were
you're
contained
hearing
there
how
as
much
well,
evidence they
indicating that
collected
it
from one
could have been
specific
most,
crime scene, which
deposited
means
there
they did their
very recently.
jobs.
And it is my item number 4.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes. States Exhibit A489. Can you tell the jury what States Exhibit for A489 is?
Yes, it is the partial cigarette butt that we saw in the photograph. Actually, they're depicted now. There is my original label, and again, my initials.
It's all good, Tony.
States exhibits, those last 3 exhibits that I handed you, were they all collected and maintained in the ordinary course of your duty there at BCI?
Yes, they were.
And ultimately, were those items
Yes,
that
Max 2002, very much unlike
were stored so that they could be sent to the lab?
West Memphis.
Yes.
Now we have another stipulation.
All right, let's, if this is acceptable to council, let's do it this way. Since you've worked out these stipulations in advance of trial, let's have you state the stipulation exactly as you wish the jury to accept it. We'll have counsel over here indicate whether that's accurate or not, and then I will so instruct the jury.
That sounds like a
Okay,
good
yes, Your
plan, Your Honor.
All right. The state and the defendant have entered into a stipulation with respect to states exhibits 487, 488, and 489, which are the 3 cigarette butts that this witness just testified to. That stipulation is that the DNA on the cigarette butt marked the states exhibit 487, which is item number 2, 488, which is item number 3, and State's Exhibit A 489, which is item 4 from the front of Chris Sr.'s trailer, contain the following DNA profiles. The butt identified as State's Exhibit 487, or item number 2, contains a mixture of DNA with Gary Roden contained in the mixture. The butts identified as State's Exhibit A 488, which is item number 3, and State's Exhibit 489, which is item number 4, contain Gary Roden's DNA.
Mr. Parker or Mr. Nash, on behalf of the defendant, is that accurately state the stipulation?
Yes.
And the jury is instructed you will so find each of those stipulations as read by counsel as if they had been, that those facts had been established by evidence.
Thank you.
That's interesting that one of the butts contained a mixture, but that they only identified Gary Roden. I wonder who else's DNA was on that cigarette butt.
You think they would be that stupid to put their own? I mean, if you plan out
I put
something
before
so
you
ridiculous and
the
then
jury with
throw
regard
out
to identification purposes.
Well, they are.
cigarette
Yeah,
with DNA on it, like how stupid can you be?
I doubt that. Well, yeah, I don't think they would be that stupid because they actually they did a lot of things that were countermeasures to avoid being caught, right? Or leaving
Yeah.
evidence at the scene. So, but I'm just curious who Gary shared the cigarette with.
The other items.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Introduced, they would have been out in this general area around through there. And now we're seeing an outbuilding that is incorporated into the diagram.
And is that something that BCI prepared as part of the work in this case?
Yes.
And with respect to that actual exhibit, does that focus on biological evidence that was collected from 4077 Union
Why
Hill
aren't they
Road?
showing that?
And as part of your work in that front porch
Because
area,
it is
in addition
precariously
to
placed
the
dangerously
cigarette butts and the Mountain Dew can
close
found in
to
the
the
yard, did you
where
also find some biological evidence
they could
on that
pan
front
and
porch?
catch a juror.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits A142 through A145.
Yes, nonstop mom. It's definitely somebody they couldn't identify.
Mr. Jump, can
I'm
you
just
put
curious. I just am nosy like that
A142
and want to
on
know.
the screen for us? All right. I put State's Exhibit A142 on the projection screen for the jury. Again, does that treating accurately depict the way that area looked that day?
Yes, it does.
Can you tell the jury what they're looking at in State's Exhibit A142?
This is basically the front porch. This photograph, the photographer me would have been in this general area, shooting back in that direction. What you see in the photograph itself is what would be my item number 11, my item number 12, and item number 13. They are very faint traces of what appeared to be blood in each of those areas.
Because that's something you observed as you did your work on that scene on that day.
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 143. Just go ahead and click the next one. Can you tell the jury what they're looking at in State's Exhibit A143?
Exhibit 143 is a close-up. Obviously, in the last photograph, you saw the placard with the number 11. It's also represented here. And this is a substance that appears to be blood on the step.
If you could, walk the jury through when you collect blood from a scene. How do you do it? What's the technique? How do you obtain that blood, and what do you do with it?
I have a very specific thing that I always did in collecting blood and would still do if I collected it today. Obviously, I would put fresh gloves on. At that point, I would have my container ready to deposit the evidence into it. And then we take sterile swabs. Sometimes they contain one swab. Most of the time, the sterile swab would contain just one swab, sometimes two. But in this case, there were one swab per container, and there was a specific area on that container that I always tore. I removed that. I took my swab. Now, depending on if the blood is dry or if the blood is wet. If the blood is wet, then you can just simply use the applicator, the cotton swab. You can take a standard of that, and then we would let that dry, and it would be packaged. When I say let it dry, you can put it into the container, leave the end open, and let that dry. If it is wet blood, then we would use sterile saline to wet the applicator so that we would be able to extract that swab.
I'd
And
like
did
to
you, as part of
apologize
your
for
work
nature
on this
today,
day,
but it's
collect a
gorgeous
swab
weather and
of
I'm sitting outside, so I'll just be
placard 11 of
muted.
that blood spot?
I believe I
I
may have
can't hear
collected
anything in the
swabs.
background,
You
so I
can't
think
hear
you're
the
all right.
cicadas. They're super loud this morning.
No.
It's the weather today in Florida is gorgeous. It's not too hot. It's not too humid. There's a nice breeze, which is rare because Florida generally has 2 speeds of wind, high and off. And so
I'm gonna hand you what's been marked for identification purposes. It
Just
states Exhibit
perfect.
A496.
perfect for
Recognize the
trial
marking on
watching
that
and
package.
true crime talking and sitting
Yes, I do.
outside.
It indicates my item number 11. The quantity is 2 swabs of suspected blood from the top step. This is my original label, and that is my initials.
And again, did you collect that in accordance with your training, in accordance with BCI SOP, and the way you testified today?
Absolutely, yes.
What did you do with it once you collected it?
It was allowed to dry. It was completely packaged, sealed, and at some point it would have been released for processing or examination, I should say.
Released to the lab?
Released to another agent or directly to the lab.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit A144. Again, states Exhibit A144 that's up on the screen. Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there?
Yes, I believe this to be suspected blood on the sidewalk area of in front of the residence.
And did you mark it with a photo placard and document it for the purposes of the trial?
Yes, I did.
And is that exact spot there? Can you show the jury what spot that is on the diagram?
Would basically be in this area. You can see my item number 12 in the photograph, and it would be in that general area as well.
Did you also collect that item as part of your work in this case?
Yes, I did.
Would you have removed your gloves after you did 11 before you took a swab of 12?
Most likely I would have, yes. Anytime I work with something biological like that, we try to do that.
Okay. My handy what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit A497. States Exhibit A497. Do you recognize the markings on that package?
Yes, I do. Once again, it has my original label, appears to be my original packaging, and it does have my initials on the package.
And again, what is it? What'd you do with it?
This would be my item number 12, which would be 2 swabs of suspected blood collected from the paver in front of the residence, and it would have either been turned over to another agency, secured in an evidence facility, or directly taken to the lab for submission.
Also, Kate, thanks for coming
I'm gonna
up
show
today.
you
I'm glad you did it.
what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit A145.
Yes.
It states Exhibit A145. Can you tell the jury what they're looking at in that picture?
In Exhibit 145, you can see a placard, obviously with a 13 on it. In looking at this, it's very hard to see, but there was actually residue of suspected blood there in the grass area. So from
Meanwhile,
there, once again, the same
we're on day
process.
11
Can you show
billion
the
and
jury
4,
where that
and George Wagner does not
suspected
change
blood
his
was in the
expression. I've
diagram.
never seen
So
anybody
here
be
being
able
the
to
spec
sit
was 11, and then
expressionless
there's
for
the
so long.
paper, and then
Yeah,
there's the
he really
plastic area
has
in
it.
front of the forge. It would have been in that general area.
So,
Let me show you what
are
the
they
marked
going to
for
go over
identification
every
purposes.
single
State
piece of
Exhibit
evidence we got?
A498. State Exhibit A498.
Believe it or not, it
Recognize the
sounds like
markings
they've
on that
actually skipped some,
item?
Exhibit 498, I do. It is my evidence number 13.
given
And
the
again, it
fact
has
that
my original label.
George Wagner's
That's my
defense is,
initials on the
again, I
back.
wasn't there at
And
all,
I have it listed as a blood-like
that
stain.
his
and I had
his
taken
attorneys are
2
saying there is
swabs of
no
that from the
physical
grassy
evidence
area.
tying him to the crime scene. I
And
feel like
again,
they
States Exhibit
have to go over it in this way.
Yeah.
The 498 that I just handed you?
Because-
A 498 that I just handed you?
Yes.
Again, did you collect that according to your training?
Because this is like
BCI,
atypical.
SOP, and store
There's like
the
4
same way?
separate
Yes, I did.
crime scenes. You know what I mean?
Again, do you know, were those items eventually sent to the lab? Or were some of those items eventually sent to the lab for DNA testing?
I believe some of them were sent to the lab after the processing of the scene. I would
I
have
had to
ended
come
up,
into the AC.
we designated
just
one
for a
individual
minute.
at that point that was more centralized than I was, and that evidence went to that individual. And from there, things were then submitted and processed to the laboratory for analysis.
Give me 1 second. 1 moment. Your Honor, at this time, the parties again have a stipulation with respect to States Exhibits A496, A497, and A498.
Why don't you state the exhibit then as you understand it to be agreed to, and then I'll ask Mr. Parker here.
Thank you, Your Honor. The parties agree that the swabs marked as Exhibits A496 and A497, which are
I'm very
items
sorry, Tony.
11
but
and
hook 'em
12
horns.
in the pictures and for BCI purposes,
I'm not
were not
actually
submitted to the
sorry.
lab for DNA testing. The swab marked as Exhibit A498, which is item number 13, as contained in the pictures and the the BCI records, was sent to the lab for DNA testing. And that evidence, or that swab, or those swabs contained human blood that was matched to Gary Roden's DNA.
Mr. Parker, do you agree with the stipulation as stated, just stated by counsel with respect to A496, A497, and A498?
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will accept each of those stipulations as if those facts have been established by evidence.
And just so y'all know,
I don't know if you
Kate
want to take a
and
morning break now, but
Texas Troy, since
it would
this
probably
is your
be a
first
good
time
time to
over
do that.
here, I
Been
usually
there for a couple of
stream
hours close to that.
until the lunch break
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are going to take a 15-minute break.
because I got to take, I got a household to
and
run,
so,
and
well, let's,
yeah, I do. And
make it about
my
10
husband is
after
really
11 until 10 after
supportive of
11.
my
While
doing
you're
this
on
and
break,
stuff,
again,
but
you're not to discuss this case
you know, I got
with
stuff I have to
anyone.
do too.
You're
So,
not to permit
around
this
the
case
Fine
to
with
be
me.
discussed with
Yeah.
you or in your presence. You're not to form or express an opinion.
What time do they
concerning this
usually
case.
take lunch?
You're not to do any
Usually
research
around
concerning this
12,
case as
12:15,
as to the
somewhere in
facts
there. So we
or
really
as to
only
the
have
law.
like,
You're not to view, listen to,
they're going to
read
take a
any
15-minute break
reports or
now,
accounts of this case,
and then
you're to have no contact at all with any of the
I'll
participants.
probably have to hop off around like 11:30, but it'll be close to the time anyway.
yeah, you do what you need to do, babe. I'm just glad that you came up. You know, I like having,
Oh, anytime. I love having
yeah,
somebody on panel to chat with.
I do
I enjoy
too.
coming on.
I do too. Plus
It
hearing
makes it a
like
lot
the
more.
different perspective and stuff, you know?
Yep. Same. I'm so glad you came on yesterday because
Thank you.
I felt like I was up there explaining it. I had someone else to come up who understood everything and could help me remember everything that I went over.
It's a lot. This case
It
is
is.
freaking huge. Hey,
And I was
support with
like
Steffa. How are you doing?
breaking it
Yes, they've
down
had
a lot.
testimony all morning. What? Sorry, Kate. Go ahead. What'd you say, babe?
Oh no, I was just saying breaking that whole thing down is a lot because there's so many moving parts.
There is so many. Can you imagine? Honestly, I sort of like when you just are just looking at the details, not the details, not like the tiny details, but just the case overall. And you find that the crime occurred April 16th, or April, yeah, April
20, 26,
22nd,
26.
2016. See the
Yeah.
numbers and all that. Okay, so but there wasn't an arrest until November 13th of 2018, and here we are in 2022, and we're at the first of two trials. There would have been four, but there were plea deals made, right? And then so when you're looking at it like that, you're wondering, like, why would it take so long for them to land on the Wagner family when they seem like they would have been obvious suspects from jump, which I think they were. But you know, I always explain it like this: knowing and proving are two different things. And when it comes down to a trial or trials, in this case, you only
Uh-huh.
get one bite at the apple. So if they would have gone too soon and arrested and charged the Wagners with the various crimes that they were charged with, and had it gone to trial, see, this is the other thing people don't always remember. Um, if you're a defense attorney and you're involved in representing a client in a case like this, it would be advantageous to you to not waive your right to a speedy trial, right? You
Yeah.
want the state to have to hurry up and do whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? Because that
Yep.
increases your chances. So I think that the state of Ohio was like, no, no, we're going to go slow, we're going to go methodical, and because in the early days and weeks of the investigation, the grow operation was found, and there was a lot of press about that, and press conferences really about the grow operation and the potential for, maybe the cartel was involved, yada yada yada. It
Yeah.
is, you know you want to go slow when it comes
Yeah.
to prosecuting.
Yep. They made the family actually look really bad in the press before they like all
Yes.
the rumors going around before they actually found out who it was. They had all kinds of terrible stories going around about them because of the grow operation and stuff.
Yes. Yes. And that's like an interesting point about the grow operation, because there's been some debate, not so much like in the courtroom obviously, but online, as to just how significant of a grow operation this actually was, which is why I want to go over the testimony yesterday. Well, also, yes, that's another problem, is that the sheriff at the time, Sheriff Redding, is now in prison. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, there was a lot of like law
corruption
enforcement
and yeah,
corruption. Yeah.
yeah, and so that makes it difficult. So, like, but I do definitely want to go over the testimony from that was given yesterday. I don't know when I'm going to do that, because so let's see, tonight me and Shameda are going to we need some levity. It's been a long week. It's been a hard week. It's been a lot of sad testimony in this case. And just generally speaking around the YouTube streets, it's been kind of dark. So what we wanted to do is, because The Sins of Our Mother is on Netflix right now, there's some interrogations that pertain to the Valo Daybell case that we want to just do a roast, right? So, because obviously we can talk factually, but then there's the case itself is not humorous, but some of the stuff that comes out in the interrogations is so nonsensical that you almost can't help but laugh. You're not laughing at the crime, you're laughing at the bullshit that comes out of Valo's mouth and other people
Oh
that,
yeah.
yeah. So we're going to do that tonight. And, I do intend to cover the Valo trial if they do end up letting it be streamed. Obviously, that would be ideal, right? But before that, I want to give like a serious overview of the case. But I just think we just need a little levity in these YouTube streets because lately it's just been so freaking dark and heavy,
It has.
Yeah. Got Yeah, do what you want to do. Yeah, whatever, however you want to do it, Tony. But yeah, the Piketon County murders on Oxygen is like that was really really well done. I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Saturday I'm gonna do some West Memphis 3. One of my subscribers is an Eagle Scout, and I sent him the descriptions of the knots in the shoelaces, and he very graciously tied the knots according to the description. And so he took pictures of the knots themselves, and then he used the material he used to tie the knots and had used water bottles so that we could see the way that they would have been tied when they were tied on the boys from their wrist to their ankle. So you can sort of, and he was really cool about explaining what the different knots, what their purpose and intent is for. Because what a lot of people don't know is that Christopher Byers, all four, well, so on his right wrist and his right ankle, those knots were tied the same. On his left wrist and his left to his left ankle, those knots were tied the same. However, on Michael Moore and Stevie Branch, their right side, the right side of their right wrist and their right ankle were tied one way. Their left wrist and their left ankle were tied a different way. And I find that very interesting because to say that there were three different knots tied, that is an accurate statement because that's true. But it's interesting to me that they were tied one way on their right side and one way on their left side.
Yeah.
So
Does
yeah,
that give you vibes like maybe two people?
what it gives me vibes of is yes, potentially more than one, or this is the other vibe it gives me, an intentional doing that intentionally to make it appear as if more than one person
Yeah.
was involved
Yeah,
as a
sure.
countermeasure. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so I want to do that. And Benny Keys, also this over the weekend, he was in West Memphis and he had drone footage and he flew over the Pipe Bridge and Robin Hood Hills as it stands today, which is completely different than it was back in 1993 when the crimes occurred. And just he said that he would come up and we could talk about the case. So you guys know that's like everybody has their one, and West Memphis 3 is Jen Lou's one. And I just always like to hear people's perspectives, whether Benny, I'll let him say his view on the case, but whether people are think that the West Memphis 3 are actually guilty, because obviously because they took the Alford plea, they are legally guilty. But
Yeah.
whether they're actually guilty or they're actually innocent, I just like to hear people's perspectives and the way that they view the evidence.
Yeah.
I always find that I just like to hear different people's thoughts on stuff because even if you agree on the overall like guilt or innocence in a case, right? The details, like Kate can look at a piece of evidence from a case and she will take something completely different away from it than I do, and it makes you
Yeah.
think, and that's what I like. That's really why I like true crime, because it makes you think.
Yep. Where like I've also run into a lot of people who like the way I dig and the way they dig into things are like completely different. And then I learn new tricks.
Yes.
They're like,
Yes.
I love that when I like
Yes.
learn new ways of how people get information, like little
Yes.
tricks.
Like I
Yeah.
never used to be, when I was looking at a crime, a social media looker into.
Oh, I
But
am.
because I always felt like it was maybe an overreach. I always felt a little dirty doing it. And but I learned that it's it's okay to dig, right? It's about what you end up actually showing and putting out
Yeah,
publicly. That's where the
exactly.
line is. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
'Cause I
agree. Yeah, like, see, here's my thing. I'm
okay.
one of those people. I need like a mental visual, like even for I don't know why, but I just need to know what every key player looks like, and like I can't like do the case without having like a mental picture of everything, you know? So I like
Mhm.
to dig in that sense because it just I don't know why I'm like that, but
You're a
I just
visual
feel
learner.
like
That's all right.
yeah, I need like a visual of everybody.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I definitely dig in social media, but I would never share like people's info or anything like
yeah.
that. But
Yeah, see, that's like looking and sharing are two totally different things. And I don't think there's a problem looking. It's just about like, being careful to how you would want to be treated if you were involved, and that's what I try to do is remember, if it were me, how would I like to be treated? So
yeah,
that's what I try to do as much as I can. And I yeah. But the West Memphis 3 case fascinates me because it is such a polarizing case. Like there are anymore, there's really nobody that is in undecided anymore. It's very black and white. They are either guilty or they're innocent. There's nothing, and the people who feel that they're innocent feel very strongly about it, and the people who feel they're guilty feel equally as strong. And it always makes for an interesting conversation because there isn't a secret vault of evidence, right? That either side, whether they believe in guilt or innocence, has seen. We're all looking at the same exact evidence. And yet, our perspective of an evaluation of the evidence is completely different. And not only is it completely different, but the weight of certain pieces of evidence is different between people who are feel that they're guilty and people who feel that they're innocent, right? Like um, a, a lot of people who believe in the guilt, they feel that Exhibit 500 is this, just says it all about who Damien was as a person, his psyche. But the truth is that when you really go through Exhibit 500, which first of all is it was used in the penalty phase, so it's not an exhibit from the trial. It wasn't used in his guilt. It was used as a mitigating factor from his defense team as a reason why he should not receive the death penalty. And when you read through it, you get when you take it as in its totality, for me, I have a different perception of it than other people. And that's I'm not their perception is their perception, and I'm not going to say whether they're right or they're wrong, right? Cuz
yeah,
it's just it is what it is. But I just like hearing other people's perspectives. And it's hard for me
yeah. Me too.
to like cover ongoing open cases because I'm always worried that I would inadvertently go from reporting to inserting, especially if you have contact with people that are involved in the case, like, people that are family or friends of the victim. And I always am thinking next step after the investigation, which is what, the prosecution. And I never want to do anything unintentionally to make it where somebody can't be prosecuted. And I don't
Yeah.
know.
Same.
And
Well,
I'm
for one, I'm a huge cynic. So I'm usually like when people are going off on those crazy like conspiracy tangents, like maybe it's this person, maybe it's this person. This person, I think they were saying at some point the one person dyed their hair, and that's like she might be guilty because she
yes,
dyed her hair. And it's like, are you serious?
she
Like
might have just had gray. She might have just had
maybe she
grays,
just wanted to
y'all.
dye her hair, you know?
Right. See, that's me,
I don't
Kate.
know.
I'm more of the simplest explanation is usually the right one. I'm more of an Occam's razor kind of gal.
Yes, me
Um,
too.
less fuss. So yeah, that's
I'm
why
the same way. So I'm usually like, when people going out, I'm like, ah, well, maybe she's just like, when they start saying, oh, the teenagers in the one case, maybe they're involved in this and that, and I'm like, well, maybe they're just like being popular, or I'm always trying to find an answer that isn't far out there, and
right, like a
unless I have some.
reasonable.
I need some concrete evidence to go there. You know what I mean? Like that's how I
Yes,
am. Like if
yes,
you
I
if
can.
you ain't got no concrete evidence, like if you're saying someone dyed their hair, I can't run with theorizing that somebody's guilty because they dyed their hair. Like it's just,
Right.
no. I need something like a lot more than that.
I need proof. Like I remember that people used to say way back um that Damien Eccles dyed his hair. And here comes your girl on the easy board discussion boards. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Damien has been in prison for some years now, and he's been on television while in prison, and I can't see nary a root, and I highly doubt he's getting Miss Clairol in prison. I mean, I know that they
Yeah.
have some prisons have it, but he's on death row, so he doesn't get everything that everybody else, like in Gen Pop, gets access to. So, I mean, he doesn't
Yeah.
get yard time. They move him. Well, they now not name he's out now, but back then they took him out of his jail cell and put him in another. It was basically just a fenced in. It's just another cell. Only it was they used chain link fence rather than actual bars. So he was never like actually outside. You know what I mean? The way that General Pop would get because he was on death row. So it's stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can't get behind. I can't. And I'm with Kylie's case. I'm just waiting now for I before I can even entertain suspects. I got to know what the autopsy is, right? Like I need to know
Yeah.
whether
Yep.
what they've decided the manner of death is. That's
Yep.
what's important. And I don't know. It's just that's just but I don't judge other people for doing it. It's just I can't my brain can't think like that.
Yep.
I do be
Same.
making up some words, Tony. You're right. I can't really take credit for obviously red rums and unaliving because red rums comes from The Shining,
Yeah.
obviously. But I
Red
just
rum.
learned how to cleverly put it in a title so that you know what it is, but it gets
Yep.
past the YouTubes.
That
Got
works.
I gotta play the game. And I
Yep.
don't even think I can take credit for unaliving. Now I also can't take credit for 11 billion. That comes from Saturday Night Live. It's from a Jeopardy skit with Will Ferrell and shit, I cannot remember who it is that is Burt Reynolds, but it's Final Celebrity Jeopardy, and the question is just write a number, any number, and here comes Burt Reynolds with 11 billion, and I just thought it was hilarious. And
I
so
remember that
yeah, so
actually.
whenever there's like something unreasonable or extra, I'm over here like I don't care how many. If you say it 11 billion times, if you lie, a lie is a lie. Whether you lie one time or 11 billion times, it's still a lie. You are a
Agent
liar.
Henshaw
Yeah.
will
Yep.
resume his place in the witness chair. Of course, you're still under oath. Um,
Oh, I
Number
don't
3.
give a rat's fat kneecap. Yeah, I like that one too. That's one of my it's one of my favorites. That is a Jen Lu original. Yes, Norm Macdonald. That's who it was who played Bert. Yes,
Oh, I love Norm
with the
Macdonald.
gum, smacking the gum. He just nailed it. It was great. No, 501100 comes from the first time I ever heard it was my husband. And he would say things I like because we're not mushy people. So he would say, I love you, but you drive me crazy 50, 1100 times a day. That kind, because we're not mushy people. Like I will say, I love your face or I love your guts, stuff like that. We're just not, just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm
my
not a
favorite,
mushy person. My
yeah,
my hu- my husband is a mushy person, but I'm not.
I'm not mushy. Aquarians are never mushy. We're very, we have all
Well,
of the
that's
emotions,
my husband's he's an Aquarius, and he's
but he's
way more mushy than I
Aquarius man.
am.
It's different. Aquarius
Yeah.
girls are different than Aquarius guys. And plus, I was talking about this yesterday. I learned the rules of the playground very quickly, which is that if somebody does something to you that actually upsets you, makes you sad, or you never cry, because then that kid is just going to, they know exactly what to say or to do to you for next time. So it shows your soft spot. So I just learned how to, plus my dad was one of those dads who, if we were talking to him and we were emotional when we were explaining something to him, he
Ladies and
dismissed it.
gentlemen, you'll recall.
Yeah, my dad was the same way.
Began
But
a
So
recess
you could
that
tell
the
when my
state
dad
was conducting
was
direct
my dad was a
examination of
total
agent
softie, but he
Henshaw
wasn't a
of
softie in a
State
mushy
Prison.
way.
right.
Like he was hard exterior, but he was a softie on the inside. So you
Yeah.
could tell like he would fold all the time, but he never like showed like emotion or was mushy or anything like that. So I
Yes,
kind of
yeah.
was always like that too. Like,
Yeah, I'm very I let me tell you, I feel all of the emotions. I'm human and most days I'm feeling all of the emotions simultaneously. I'm just very good at not showing it. I'm very stoic.
yeah.
Some blood that you
Well,
found
I'm
in the
also
front
one
porch
like I
area,
grew up
again,
too,
with
where
that
like
general area depicted
my
on
husband,
that
he'll be
diagram.
when he's like in the
Yes, it
mood,
is.
he'll have like he'll
In
put on
addition
like a
to the
sad
blood
song or something. And I'll be like one of those
that you
people
found in
like
that area, did you also
put on
examine that
something
front
upbeat.
porch
Yeah.
for
Yeah, I
signs
Like,
of
can't
why are you drowning in this? Like,
yeah, I can't
put something
wallow.
upbeat on and get over it, you
Yes.
know?
Exactly.
And I
I
can't
can't
help
take
that
us
I'm
through,
that
if you
way,
could,
but like,
explain what your
I can't help
observations
I
that
were on
I'm
the
just,
that way
porch with
either, but
respect to
it is what
any
it is, and
signs
I'm
of
just one of
shots
those
fired
people.
in the
I
area.
get uncomfortable when I'm around
If you
people who are
recall,
crying because I don't know what
a
to
few
do.
photos back,
yeah, me
we
too.
saw photographs of the
It's
front
awkward
porch,
for
and
me.
that would have had a
I've got a
railing
lot of
around that
issues.
porch. We began to, we're now working our way, as you can
I
see,
feel you
we're
though.
getting
I'm the
closer
same
to
way.
the front door of
Yeah.
the residence. We
It's
had
nice when
11,
people
12,
get
and
it.
13 down in
It's
this
not that I
area.
don't care. I
Now we're
care. I
approaching
just
the
don't
front
know how to
door.
express caring.
And
I'm a little,
when we get into that area, we begin to
takes me a
see
while.
or
I
better
envy the
document the
people
things that
who are
we had
so
been
good
missing
at
earlier.
saying like the perfect
And
thing at the
you will
perfect
see, or
time
you may
when
see
people
what
are
we
upset,
refer to
things
as
like that. And I
BE,
am not that
and then
person. I get all awkward
1.0.
and I'm like,
The
don't
BE
know what to
would
say.
Yeah. So nonstop mom, no, we're still on
represent
direct.
ballistic event, and the 1.0 would represent a entrance of a bullet hole. When we got to the porch area and began to examine that, we got out to where you see the number 15 listed in this area.
Oh, they finally
And there
busted
was
out a
some
pointer.
laminate
Thank the
flooring that was
Lord.
stacked up in that area. And looking through that, we actually located what we believe to be a partial bullet or a bullet in that area. And we did label that, and it would end up being item number 15/BE 1.0.
This
I'm
is
gonna hand you what's been
nonstop
marked for
mom's subtle way of telling
identification
us to stop
purposes. The state's
talking over the
exhibits
testimony.
A146, A149, A150, and
Sorry,
A151.
nonstop, mom.
And Mr. Junkin,
I do it all the time to our driver. I drive her nuts, but bless her heart, she keeps coming back. God love her.
All right, could you tell the jury what they're looking at in State's Exhibit A146? What's depicted in that picture?
Again, these are my photographs, and if you're standing down in front of the porch, and you recall earlier, we saw photographs again with item number 11. Now we're in that general vicinity of that top step where item number 11 would have been found. If you look directly in front of you in the photograph down near the bottom of the mobile home where it meets the porch, you will see an item number 14.
Okay. And were you able to look at that, examine, and determine what was there, or what caught your interest that caused you to label it item number 14?
It appeared to be a fragment or the jacketing from a bullet.
I'm going to show you what's been marked, or we're going to put up on the screen what's been marked for identification purposes. State's Exhibit A149.
Well, whatever keeps you whatever keeps you coming back nonstop, Mom.
Again,
I
can you tell the jury
appreciate
what they're
it.
looking at there?
Yes, we've been able to orient it in A146. Now we're moving up closer to item number 14.
Oh,
Just
wow.
to get a
Did you?
better
Super Mama
general
D?
view of
Huh.
what that evidence is.
In State's Exhibit A151.
Exhibit 151, that would be a close-up shot of item number 14. We know its location based on the previous photographs, and we can see characteristics here that it appears to be a jacket from a copper jacket from a bullet.
Okay. With respect to what you marked as item 14, the bullet or the jacket that's depicted in that picture, first of all, does that truly and accurately depict the way it looked the day you found it on the porch?
Yes, sir, it does.
And again, tell the jury how you went about collecting that item.
This would be something that normally we would, once again, I spoke earlier of the blue disposable tweezers that we use. Normally, that's what we use to collect something of this nature.
Did you in fact collect that item?
Yes.
I'm gonna show you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit A499. Do you recognize the markings on that document?
Yes, it is my evidence number 14. It appears to be my original label documenting the contents. This packaging has my initials on the back from the time that it was collected.
Can you tell the jury what you remember being in that?
What I remember being in it, and I'm filling it here to see if it's there, is what represents item number 14 in the photograph, which would be this copper jacket.
Can you open State's Exhibit A499, please?
Yes. This exhibit, item number 14, which is my item number, it is in a small individual package now. Most likely would have been placed by a lab worker or a scientist or somebody that would have looked at this.
Okay. And again, do you recognize State's Exhibit A499 as the jacket that you collected on that day?
Yes, I do. This is what we collected, item number 14.
Your Honor, request permission to publish this to the jury.
Any objections to that?
No objection.
All right. Nobody's.
Exactly, Corky. That's how, yeah. That's how it be sometimes.
place that back in the envelope for me?
Yes, sir.
Was that item, again, collected, packaged, maintained, and stored in accordance with BCI standard operating procedure?
Yes, it was.
In addition to States Exhibit 499, which was marked by photo placard 14, did you also look at that laminate flooring to see if there was a projectile in it?
Yes, we did look at the laminate flooring on the, as you could seen in the photographs earlier, it was a stack of laminate flooring. And on the outer edge, in other words, the edge that would be facing the road, which is the edge that you would see if you were looking toward the house, located some damage there. And then looking into that damage, it appeared to be another partial bullet and fragment there.
I've handed you a group of photo exhibits. If you could, take a look at those. I'm going to start by reusing States Exhibit A-146, and that's not in your stack there, but you just testified to it. Okay. If you look at the screen real quick, that's States Exhibit A-146. Again, what's depicted there? What area are you looking at when we're talking about this item number 15?
It would be out in this area on your diagram. In the photographs, it's obviously on top of the porch railing that goes around the exterior of the porch.
Can you go ahead and forward to States Exhibit A-147? Okay, States Exhibit A-147, that's up on the screen there. What's depicted in that? What's the jury looking at?
This is the stack of laminate flooring, again, that's stacked up on the rail.
A-148?
A-148 is another photograph. Notice in A-147, we're showing it's a wide view of this. We've now moved to a closer view because we had observed some damage there, and you can clearly see a damaged area there in A-148.
And again, as you're looking at that, are you up on that porch looking for projectile strikes?
Had been, yes.
Okay.
Prior to that, yes.
And what you're seeing there in that laminate flooring, again, based on your knowledge, your training, your experience, was that consistent with a projectile having gone into that?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you go ahead and give me the A-158? Can you tell the jury what they're looking at and States Exhibit A-158?
Yeah, we've now panned in on this specific piece of laminate. And you can see a scale there. And again, it's listed as BE 1.0, which would be a ballistic event, or shooting a firearm would constitute a ballistic event. And this was the first entrance that we found, so it was 1.0.
And were you able to pull those planks apart and to look further to see if you could actually find the projectile associated with that ballistic event?
Yes, sir.
Can you show me States Exhibit A-266, please? Okay. Can you tell us what we're looking at in States Exhibit A-266?
A-266, again, it's a photograph from the porch looking at the laminate flooring. If you recall in the last photograph, we saw BE 1.0.
I'm
That
gonna hop
piece of
down,
laminate
Jen,
has
but
now
I'll
been,
be in chat
moved.
and watching.
Okay, babe.
And,
So you
All
know what?
right. Thanks
Thank
for
you for
coming up.
having
found
me
what
up.
appeared to be a
You're
bullet
always
there,
welcome over here.
laying
Thank
on
you
top
for
of
coming.
the laminate.
Anytime.
You see that
Anytime.
All right,
listed
have a
there as
good
item
rest of
number
your day,
15
babe.
in the plaque.
You too.
So again,
Okay,
it's item
bye.
number 15,
Bye.
BE 1.0.
Can you give me States Exhibit A-267? Can you tell us what we're looking at there?
Yes, this is a close-up of item number 15, the partial bullet.
268?
We've now collected that and trying to take a photograph of the end of it. That could possibly be used later for measurements or something of that nature.
Okay, when you say measurements or something like that, again, do you have a firearms section there at your lab at BCI?
Yes, we do. That's one of the disciplines we talked about earlier. different disciplines in our lab. We would have DNA, we'd have latent fingerprints, we would have the firearm section. So yes.
Is one of the things that you do from time to time, take ballistic evidence such as projectiles, shell casings that are found at the scene and ask that section to do examinations or comparisons?
Yes.
Can you give me the, go ahead and give me 269. Again, can you tell us what's depicted in State's Exhibit A269?
A269 again is item number 15, the bullet. It's just from the opposite end is what we saw in Exhibit 268.
I don't want to
Did
be
you collect,
overly critical, but I've not
would you have
heard
marked there
the
as item number
prosecutor say
15?
please one time when
Yes.
he's been
I'm
asking
going
for
to show
this
you what's been marked for
evidence.
identification purposes
Saying
in State's Exhibit A500.
manners are
Can you
important.
take a look at that for me?
A500, once again, it's listed as item number 15. This would be the bullet we just looked at that I collected. This packaging has my original label, and again, my initials are on the back.
If you could you open State's Exhibit A500 for us?
Yes.
Tell the jury what was inside the envelope marked State's Exhibit A500.
It's the bullet that we just looked at in the photographs, item number 15.
Can you do me a favor? Can you actually pull that one out of the plastic wrap?
Yes.
And again, is it your testimony that the plastic little baggie that it's in is consistent with what you know from the lab?
Most likely, yes, it is.
Okay. That exhibit that you removed from that plastic baggie, is that the projectile
I believe it is, yes.
that you collected that day?
Yes.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to mute, but I'll be in the chat.
Could you go ahead and put it back in the envelope for me?
Yes.
Again, State's Exhibit A500, was that collected, packaged, stored, maintained in accordance with BCI standard operating procedures?
Yes.
In addition to those two projectiles that you recovered from that front porch area, did you also look around the front porch area and look at evidence of different strikes?
Yes.
I might hand you another series of pictures here. You could just take a second and look at them. Mr. Junk, if you could put up State's Exhibit A136 for us. Go back out of that. It's all right. Can you give me A152? Okay. If you could, I put State's Exhibit A152 up on the screen for the jury. Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there and what area of that front porch that's located in?
Yes, A152, this photograph would be taken if you were standing on the front porch, looking from the area that we just looked at from the porch railing. We were standing in that general location, looking toward the front door. In this case, looking toward the window.
Okay. State's Exhibit A153. Can you tell us what's depicted in State's Exhibit A153?
Yes, there's broken glass. The window obviously had been broken. That's something that, in looking at the front of the residence, we don't just look in the obvious places or look in one area. We would try to examine the entire front exterior for bullet holes or bullet strikes. And in doing that examination, we noticed this window had broken.
Did you also examine the area around the front door for strikes and projectiles?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you tell us, can you give me State's Exhibit 155? I'm putting up on the screen what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit A155. Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there?
Yes, I can. I do not have that photograph in front of me.
We already used
But-
it once, so it's not in the file.
Yes, but A155 would be a photograph standing on the front porch, looking directly at the door. I think we looked at it earlier, and I mentioned that there were multiple suspected bullet holes there, and there were additional holes in the door that did not appear to be bullet holes. However, one of those was a bullet hole.
Did you have the opportunity to, again, look around that area and examine it more closely, excuse me, for bullet incidents or ballistic incidents?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Can you give me State's Exhibit 160? Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there and what part of the trailer that is?
Yes, after the last photograph, obviously, we photographed things in their original condition. That's why you did not see labels prior to that. Once we photographed them in their original condition, then we approached, added labels with scales. And you can see to the far left, you would have BE 2.0. And getting closer to the door jamb, then you get 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, and then the one over in the door itself is BE 6.0.
And again, did you take a closer examination of each of those ballistic events to, again, determine angle and what you could tell from those strikes?
Yes.
Can you give me State's Exhibit 8161? Can you tell us what that is?
Yes. Exhibit 161 is BE 2.0, referenced in the last photograph as being far to the left. It was over to the left of all the of 3.0 and so on. It's basically a close-up photograph of that hole.
And again, just to be clear, because there's no real frame of reference or no context to that picture, can you just point and tell us where on the diagram that would have been?
Actually, if you look at the diagram here and you see the number 26 and you see the number 14 and the wall in between the two in this area, that's about where all of these bullet strikes would have been located.
Okay. Can you show us State's Exhibit A162? State's Exhibit A162, can you tell the jury what they're looking at there?
Yes, this is another bullet hole. You're now moving over closer to the door, and I referenced it earlier, and again, it's BE 3.0.
State's Exhibit A163.
Exhibit 163, again, if you look at the last photograph, you'll see the bottom of this placard, and now in looking at this, you'll see the top of the last placard, trying to keep something in the photograph to overlap, as we discussed earlier. In this photograph, in the center, you see BE 4.0, a bullet hole, and now you're getting very close to the edge of the door.
Can you give me State's Exhibit A164? You tell the jury what they're seeing there.
Yes, in this photograph, it's BE 5.0. It's a bullet hole, and over in the right corner, you will see the edge of that placard, which is going to be 6.0.
Can you give me State's Exhibit A165, please? Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there?
Yes, Exhibit 165 is a photograph of BE 6.0. And one of the additional holes that I talked about earlier, I referenced, you can see the obvious difference between that hole, which appears to be a drilled hole, and the top hole 6.0, which appears to be a bullet hole.
Mr. John, can you back me up to State's Exhibit A159? So you had right there in those markings right around the door, you had BE 2.0 through BE 6, is that correct?
Yes.
And BE 1 was actually the strike right here in the laminate, is that correct?
Yes.
So with respect to the area where this, right around where 14 and 26 is in this front door area, how many bullet holes did you find in the front of that trailer in that area?
In that particular area, we would have had one, again, which is 15. That'd be 1.0. Then we had 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for a total in that area of approximately 6 right there.
Did you also, in doing your examination of those ballistic incidents right there in the wall of the, or in the exterior of the trailer, did you also look at those with rods or use rods to make determinations with respect to those holes?
Yes, we did insert trajectory rods through each of those holes.
And tell us about that. What is a trajectory rod? Why do you use a trajectory rod?
There's a lot of reasons or purposes for a trajectory rod. You have to have the proper, obviously the proper bullet hole there in order to be able to fit the rod in it. Meaning that you most normally want a good secondary point. So when the rod goes through, you can get an accurate line. So you have it going in one point and going out another point. That's going to give you an accurate line. What we use basically more times than none now when we use trajectory rods, we will later put a sphere on those. And then we will use those when we scan the scene. And then we can do a somewhat of a reconstruction based on the scan. It will basically show us the origin or the general origin of where those bullets were fired from.
And did you put some rods through those holes to do some trajectory analysis in this case?
Yes.
Can you give me what's been identified as State's Exhibit A272?
Y'all, I hate to break the party up, but I'm good for streaming
All right, I'm
for
showing you
about another
what's been
like
marked for
15
identification purposes as
minutes
State's Exhibit A272.
because there's stuff I got to get done around the
Can you tell the
house
jury what they're looking at
Plus-
there?
for tonight.
Yes, you now see a
So just
photograph
a
of
little-
the front
Don't
door.
leave now.
Obviously, you can see the
But
bullet holes,
just for
the
now, you know,
placards
in
that
like
are
15
there, or the
minutes.
stickers that we have put there, the BE 2.0 up into 6.0, and now trajectory rods have been inserted into those holes.
Now, you testified that in addition to examining this exterior storm door for bullet holes, where you found bullet holes, did you also look at the interior front door to see if it had any bullet holes in it?
Yes,
Yeah, I
And
do
did you
nonstop,
find any
Mom.
bullet
I do
holes
think they
in
are.
that interior front door?
I found none.
Okay. Based on your knowledge, your training, your experience, what would that indicate about that interior front door?
Based on that factor, the fact I found no bullet hole, that if you closed it, it would have lined up with a bullet hole in the screen door. Based on that fact and other facts that we've seen photographs of earlier, I believe that this front door was in the open position when this ballistic events occurred.
This is Chris Roden Sr.'s home.
Can you give me State's Exhibit 265, A265?
And remember, he was standing in that doorway when this ballistic event
Okay, at some point,
occurred.
did you begin to work inside the trailer?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And again, when you came inside the trailer, were you still, to a certain extent, focusing on the internal or inside of that door frame area?
Yes.
I've got up for the jury what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit A265. Can you tell us what's depicted in that picture?
Yes, you see in 265, you see the front door. You also see the screen door. If you look to the right portion of the door jamb near the light switch, you will see some trajectory rods, little pink rods sticking through the wall. And we would later label those as well.
Okay, we'll talk about that. As you did your work in that area, actually, Ron, can you come down for a second?
Yeah.
It seems to me, Nonstop Mom, by the testimony and the way that they have.
In that area where those trajectory rods are at.
Yes, he
as
was
you
with
examined that
Gary.
area, did you notice, like,
So it seems to me the way that the testimony is going, right? And the way that the evidence has been marked, they're going to go through each crime scene in the order in which they believe that the crimes occurred. And so they believe that it started with Chris Roden Sr.'s trailer, where it was Chris Sr. and Gary Roden in the trailer. And then it moved. Then the second crime scene is, I believe, Frankie Roden and Hannah Gillies' trailer. The third crime scene is Dana Roden, her home. And in her home was obviously Dana, Hannah Mae Roden, and Chris Jr. And then the fourth crime scene, which would be on Left Fork Road, is Kenneth Roden's home. I know that we haven't gotten to the actual medical examiner's testimony yet, but I believe that Chris Sr. had some defensive wounds, and I think that I don't. I'm just gonna wait and see, because I feel like it was like an ambush. Like, it once it started, it happened very, very quickly, and there wasn't much of a. I mean, there was a little bit of a fight, but what can you really do when you're, outnumbered and outarmed, as it were? And it was unexpected. Like, they expected, Chris Sr. was expecting Billy Wagner to be there that day. They had set up a meeting the night prior. So I'm kind of waiting to hear it all before I make my, how I roll.
what'd you notice about the wood in that area?
The wood is kind of blown out in that area.
Okay. And did you find, as you did your examination of that area, did you find wood fragments or wood chips consistent with it being blown out?
Yes.
Okay. Can you point to where that is? That's why I brought you out. I'm sorry.
Yes. It's up in this area here. And there would be wood fragments and things in that area.
Thank you. You can take your seat again. And at some point you said you marked those interior holes as part of your examination in this case?
Yes.
And when you marked an interior hole, would you mark that interior hole and match it up with an exterior hole?
If you can determine that that interior hole is directly connected with the exterior. In other words, if I know that a bullet went in here and exited here, and there's a clear path through, and obviously there was because we were able to insert trajectory rods, then we can call that a continuation. So if you had BE 3.0 on the outside, now the inside of that specific hole or that path would now become BE 3.1. So it's 3.0 and then 3.1.
And did you in fact do that with respect to some of those holes around that door frame?
Some of them we were able to do that, yes.
Can you show me, or Mr. John, can you give us State's Exhibit A304?
No, no. See, I did
Right.
I did
State
two
Exhibit
initially until I
A304
heard some of the
is up on the
testimony, and then that's when
screen.
and the
Can you tell
opening
the jury what they're
statements.
looking at with respect to State's Exhibit A304?
Yes, earlier I pointed out to a section on the photograph that had the pink trajectory rods and showed you that there was wood tear out there and some debris on the floor. This is a close-up of that. If you recall from the exterior, we had BE 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0. These three are from the interior, and they correspond with the exterior. Therefore, we labeled them as BE 3.1, 4.1, and 5.1.
Mr. John, can you give me 305? We're going to put up State's Exhibit A305. Again, can you tell us what that is?
Yes, it's 305 is we're panning in, trying to get a closer view of these bullet holes.
306?
306 is the same. We're moving in closer, and it shows a close-up of BE 3.1.
And does that picture, again, depict the shearing of the wood or the fragmentation of the wood that you had talked about, that you were able to observe?
Yes, it appears to. There's tear out there. There's clean wood in that area.
Next picture, please. Tell us what that is.
I have 307, Exhibit 307. It looks like a close-up of BE 4.1.
Okay. Yes, and I guess for the record, what's up on the screen is State's Exhibit A307, and then A308.
A308 is another photograph of BE 5.1. You can see where it looks like the projectile came on an inward direction, and there is some metal there, and obviously what came through had enough force to bend that metal, is what it appears.
And again, they specifically
take you
chose
to
to go to Chris
State's Exhibit
uh,
A274.
Roden Senior's home first, as they determined that he was the biggest threat. So that they wanted to eliminate what they perceived to be the biggest threat initially, and then they systematically went to the other homes and eliminated those people as well. So that the devastation that occurred in these homes is monumental, but the way that they went about planning it is also just, it was strategic, it was cold, it was calculating.
I have 307, Exhibit 307. It looks like a close-up of BE 4.1.
I'm just going to
Yes, and I
go
guess
ahead and pause it
For the
here
record,
and just go ahead and thank. I don't want to, because I don't want to cut off right in the middle of testimony. So, or have testimony that we want to talk about, because I know that I have to end the stream. So I'm just going to end it now. And I just want to tell you guys all so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Kate, for coming up. I put Kate's channel in the chat. Let me do this real quick. Hold on. Let me stop sharing and get to her channel and add it again so that you guys can go over there and sub to her channel. She does excellent coverage of true crime cases, very thorough, and it's a lot. And her chat's chill and cool too. I highly recommend it. All right, let me put her channel in the chat. All right. So there's Kate's channel. Go over there and give her a sub. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday. And I look forward to seeing everyone tonight for our roast. It'll be Valo Daybell related. I haven't decided yet which one, but it'll be there. And we need a little levity. We're going to have a little levity tonight. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you so much for being here. If you haven't done so already, please give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. I appreciate it. All right, y'all take care and stay safe out on the real streets and these YouTube streets because y'all know it's dicey out there. All right, bye, y'all.